At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176. Why are you? The rooms on the basement floor are very large, each with a space of about square meters. In addition to a double bed, there is a separate bathroom, desk, and bookshelves full of books. When Yang Mi first arrived here, she hadn't fully adapted to her mentality. Being raised as a canary by a handsome strange man, this feeling is indescribably subtle. She was a little at ease, but also a little confused. She didn't know how long such a life would last. Whispering sound. The thick metal door of the room was suddenly opened. Yang Mi was startled. She sat up quickly and then picked up her clothes to cover her good figure. Zhang Yi walked in from the door, glanced at her charming figure with a smile, and said, "Come here. I'll introduce you to a friend." Yang Mi looked puzzled. "Friend? You'll know when you see it." Zhang Yi thought for a while and then said, "According to the order of first come, you have to call her sister." Yang Mi instantly understood what it meant. "Is she your girlfriend?" Almost. Yang Mi's head was almost dizzy. She didn't expect to encounter this kind of sure field when she came here. "Get dressed and come up." After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he turned and left. Yang Mi bit her lip, feeling mixed feelings in her heart. She is a top star in Huaguo, a first-line actress, and she wants to be with other women. Hey, people have to bow their heads under the eaves. She put her two long black silk legs under the bed and began to put on the black dress that Zhang Yi gave her. After thinking for a while, a firm look flashed in her eyes. The first meeting between women needs to be decided. She must be well groomed. When Zhang Yi returned to the first floor, he didn't rush to urge Yang Mi to come over. He understands women. As long as it's going out, it's impossible not to delay for a while. Sure enough, it took 10 minutes for Yang Mi to slowly walk up the escalator to the first floor. Sitting next to Zhang Yi, Zhao Kena was also full of vigilance, and at the same time, she didn't forget to take out her cosmetic bag to touch up her makeup. The two women were secretly competing in their hearts. Yang Mi walked into the living room, and when she was about to say hello with a smile, she and Zhao Kena met eyes. The air fell into silence for a moment. The two women stared at each other with surprise, annoyance, and shame in their eyes. Why you? Why you? The two said in unison. There was a bit of anger and indifference in Zhao Kena's eyes. Yang Mi dodged her eyes, not daring to look into Zhao Kena's eyes. Zhang Yi didn't expect that the two of them knew each other. What's the relationship between you two? Zhang Yi pointed to the two of them and asked. Zhao Kena bit her lip and said angrily, "She's my cousin." Zhang Yi was also in a daze. He didn't expect such a coincidence that the two women he rescued were cousins. "But looking at the relationship between the two of you, it seems a bit stiff," he said with some incomprehension. Zhao Kena hugged her chest angrily. "There are some contradictions." Zhang Yi frowned, feeling that something was wrong. At this time, he saw Yang Mi winking at him, telling him to go over. Zhang Yi walked over. Yang Mi pulled him aside and said with pleading eyes, "Zhang Yi, please. Can you not let her know about the two of us?" Zhang Yi touched his chin. "What's the matter with us?" Yang Mi said shyly, "It's our deal." Seeing the completely different reactions of the two, Zhang Yi became more curious in his heart. In order to thoroughly understand the relationship between the two, Zhang Yi pulled them over and asked them to have a good chat with him. From the attitudes of the two, he could tell that Yang Mi was obviously the one with the guilty conscience. And Zhao Kena's attitude towards her was not very good. She seemed a little resentful. After some inquiries from Zhang Yi, he finally found out what was going on. Yang Mi's mother's surname is Zhao, who is Zhao Kena's aunt according to her seniority. The Zhao family and the Yang family are both well-known scholarly families, and there are countless talents in the family. The Zhao family is very powerful in the medical field, and many of them are experts in the medical field at home and abroad. The Yang family also produce many professors. Even Yang Mi's grandfather once served as the principal of Qingyuan University in China. The point of contradiction is that Yang Mi chose to enter the entertainment circle. For the Zhao and Yang families, having an actor in the family was a disgrace to the family tradition. Especially for a girl's family. If she enters the big die tank of the entertainment industry, her reputation will be ruined. Zhao Kena became angry when he thought of this. Because of her matter, many people in the upper circles of Shengjing are laughing at our Zhao family. Even I myself have been made fun of because I have an actor cousin. Do you think I can't be angry? Yang Mi sighed softly, but I like acting, and I like the feeling of being admired by all the stars. Is there something wrong? Zhao Kena sneered when she heard the words and said in a strange way, it's fine if you become famous and start a family. But you are famous because of your figure. Why are you so popular? Don't you know? Zhang Yi's eyes fixed on Yang Mi's figure. He chose a low-cut black knee-length dress for Yang Mi, which fully highlighted her full breasts and allowed her slender black silk calves to be clearly displayed in the eyes. He nodded, agreeing with Zhao Kena's words very much. He didn't appreciate Yang Mi's works very much, he was just greedy for her body. Yang Mi was so bullied by Zhao Kena that she didn't know what to say. She also knew that, coming from such a family, it would be humiliating to be a celebrity who relied on her figure to make a name for herself. So towards Zhao Kena, a cousin, she also felt guilty in her heart. Especially now that she actually became the lover of her cousin's boyfriend, which made her feel ashamed to face Zhao Kena. At the critical moment, Zhang Yi stood up to smooth things over. Don't bring up the past again. From now on, there will be no young lady from a well-educated family, and no top-ranking actress. You are just neighbors who share weal and woe. Zhang Yi's tone was full of oppressive force that could not be refuted. Even though Zhao Kena complained to Yang Mi, she had no choice but to endure it. And Yang Mi looked at Zhao Kena with a sense of guilt in her eyes. Next, Zhang Yi assigned the two women their respective tasks. It's not complicated. The main thing is to clean the house and the management of botanical gardens and farmland behind. Don't let those places be abandoned. You have to take care of the botanical gardens and farmland. Understand? Zhang Yi said to the two of them. Both Zhao Kena and Yang Mi were very happy. If you let them do nothing, they will be sick. Taking care of plants and growing some vegetables and food can enrich their lives. Chapter 177 Udon 039. T want her to know about our relationship, do you? Zhang Yi arranged a room for Zhao Kena. It was on the second floor, and his room was also here. After talking about the basic requirements, he ordered Zhao Kena to clean up the house. Zhao Kena passed away obediently, and Yang Mi heaved a long sigh of relief after she left. She looked at Zhang Yi and said very sincerely, Zhang Yi, thank you for not talking about me and you. I already owe her something, so from now on, the two of us, can we keep it quiet so that she won't find out? Prying her cousin's boyfriend, this feeling made her feel a strong sense of guilt. The corner of Zhang Yi's mouth slowly raised a perverted arc. Although the house is huge, but 3 people live together, how easy is it to keep Zhao Kena from discovering it? Yang Mi's statement is tantamount to deceiving herself. But what reason did he have for refusing? He even felt that it was like stealing Q, and he was even a little irritated in his heart. So he nodded with a smile. Well, no problem. I respect your opinion. Yang Mi didn't expect Zhang Yi to agree so happily. She breathed a sigh of relief and bowed to Zhang Yi. Thank you. But she forgot that she was wearing a low-cut dress. With such an action, Zhang Yi presented 2 white hemispheres across the Mariana Trench. Hiss, what a seductive fairy. Zhang Yi couldn't help feeling a little angry. Yang Mi noticed that something was wrong with Zhang Yi's eyes. She blushed and stood up quickly. I'll cook first. Zhang Yi was a little surprised. Can you still cook? A look of pride appeared on Yang Mi's face. Of course. Don't think that celebrities are waste in life. When I'm bored, I like to cook by myself to relieve stress. She walked to the open kitchen in the corner of the living room, bent down and began to rummage through the ingredients in the cabinet. Hey, why don't you have anything to eat? Seeing this, Zhang Yi walked behind her. He saw a heart-shaped thing appear in front of him. I have to say, Dami's figure is really great. Zhang Yi couldn't bear to experience it with his hands. Ah, what are you doing? Yang Mi blushed, stood up nervously and hid back, while looking worriedly upstairs. Fortunately, Zhao Kena is not here. She stomped her feet in embarrassment. Didn't you say it? Don't look like this. What if you are found out? Zhang Yi smiled and said, "No way, you are so charming, I can't help it." After speaking, he took out a lot of ingredients from the different space and put them on the table. "Are these things enough?" Yang Mi's eyes widened in surprise when she saw many ingredients appear out of thin air. Chicken, duck, sea bass, pork, and a balloon and sea cucumber, scallops. "My god, how do you have all these things?" Yang Mi couldn't believe her eyes. She hadn't seen these ingredients for too long. And it doesn't look like it's been refrigerated for a long time. It's very fresh. Although they were all raw, Yang Mi's throat couldn't help wriggling, and appetite emerged from her heart and stomach. Zhang Yi whispered in her ear, "From now on, our family will eat like this." There was a great feeling of joy in Yang Mi's heart. She thought that the food in Zhang Yi's hands were some canned food and bacon. Unexpectedly, it was so rich. Now, she felt too much balance in her heart. "Ah." She pursed her lips, eyes full of joy. Zhang Yi said, "You are busy first, and I will explain to you slowly later." He patted Yang Mi's pink buttocks. Yang Mi glanced at him helplessly, then picked out a few ingredients with fiery eyes, and started making today's dinner. After a while, Zhao Ke packed up the house and came down. Zhang Yi saw that Yang Mi was cooking, and it should take a while to get better. He stretched himself, and went to take a shower. Zhao Ke was bored, so she sat on the sofa, turned on the TV, and watched the TV video. Zhang Yi took a shower, and walked out wearing a spacious pajamas. In the living room, Yang Mi was still concentrating on cooking. Since it was the first time for the three of them to eat together, she did it very carefully, probably out of guilt towards Zhao Ke. However, Zhao Ke's complaints about her would not be eliminated so easily. When Zhang Yi was away, neither of them said a word. Zhao Ke sat far away on the sofa, with his back to Yang Mi, and turned up the TV volume very loudly. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Mi, then at Zhao Ke, and suddenly a bad taste arose in his heart. He walked behind Yang Mi, and started to move his hands and feet. Yang Mi was startled, and just about to shout. She realized that Zhao Ke was also in the living room. Ugh, she quickly covered her mouth, and then blushed, and said to Zhang Yi behind her, "You, what are you doing? This is in the living room." Zhang Yi smiled and said, "What's the matter?" "She's watching TV. If you keep your voice down, she won't notice." Yang Mi retorted, "How is it possible? Don't be here." But Zhang Yi didn't listen to her at all. "Cook well, don't overcook the food." Yang Mi didn't dare to make too much noise, so she could only cover her mouth with one hand and continue cooking. After a long time, Zhang Yi took out a bottle of beer from the refrigerator in a comfortable mind and body, and then sat down next to Zhao Ke. Zhao Ke's eyes were fixed on the TV screen, but there was a strange blush on her face. Zhang Yi glanced at her with a weird smile on his lips. "The meal is ready, come and eat." Yang Mi tried her best to smile and greet Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke to have dinner. Zhao Ke bit her lip, unwilling to get up, but Zhang Yi dragged her over. Yang Mi brushed her hair back, with a hint of embarrassment on her face. What happened just now? Ke probably didn't notice it, she thought with luck. Zhang Yi smiled and pulled Zhao Ke to sit next to him. "Come on, how about trying the craft of a big star?" There are a total of 4 dishes on the dinner table: braised sea bass in braised sauce, stir-fried kidneys, stir-fried pork with lappy and mullet egg soup. Zhao Ke took a mouthful of the sea bass and snorted lightly in disdain. "Too much salt. How do you eat this?" Yang Mi lowered her head and patted the rice, not knowing how to explain this problem. After all, in the situation just now, it was really not easy to grasp the amount of seasoning. Zhang Yi saw it in his eyes, but he was smiling in his heart. He deliberately wanted to make the two women jealous, so that the relationship could not be harmonious. If they reach a united front, they will unanimously target Zhang Yi. Moreover, when he learned that the two of them turned out to be cousins, Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel more vigilant. They are cousins, so don't you become an outsider? Although these two women are not stupid, the possibility of them joining forces to deal with Zhang Yi and then snatch the villa is not completely non-existent. Of course, that is a small probability event. After all, the daily necessities are stored in Zhang Yi's different space. Without Zhang Yi, it would be useless for them to get this villa. But be careful sailing for thousands of years. There is no harm in being a little bit careful. That's why he deliberately made out with Yang Mi in front of Zhao Ke. It's strange that Zalkeda didn't notice that kind of movement at all. Zhang Yi smiled, glanced at Zalkeda who was still sulking beside him, and picked up chopsticks for her to stir fry the kidneys. Come on, try this. This tastes good, and it will make up your body. The expression on Zalkeda's face eased a little, and she opened her mouth towards Zhang Yi. What? Zhang Yi smiled and stuffed the dish into her mouth. Zalkeda held her chopsticks in her mouth, and after eating the dish, she licked her lips with her small tongue, and gave Zhang Yi a charming look. At the same time, he deliberately glanced at Yang Mi, as if declaring his sovereignty. Zhang Yi was ecstatic in his heart. Sure enough, competitive employment is the best way to motivate employees. Chapter 178 Love is a Disease. That night, Zhang Yi slept in Zalkeda's room. To deal with these two women, he has to be evenly exposed and maintain a balance. Everything exists in balance. Zalkeda leaned against Zhang Yi's arms, looking at him eagerly. Zhang Yi, do you love me more or her more? Zhang Yi smiled and touched her head. Little fool, of course you are the one I love more. How can she compare with you? You are my precious nanny, Reverend. She is only an actress, and I play with her. But I think you are like a series. Fool, don't think too much. How can you doubt your place in my heart? This is not a lie. In terms of attributes, Zalkeda is obviously more valuable than Yang Mi. But Yang Mi's advantage is only that she is more skilled and has a star halo on her body. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, Zalkeda smiled happily. She hugged Zhang Yi tightly. I knew you loved me the most. Looking at Zalkeda, who was in the posture of a little woman in his arms, Zhang Yi just smiled faintly. Love? Zhang Yi shook his head, disapproving of this thing in his heart. He thought to himself, I don't need love, and I don't have time for love. I'm a man and sometimes I need a woman. But once my lust is satisfied, I'm ready for something else. Women know nothing but love, so they take love so seriously that it's ridiculous. They also want to convince us that we also believe that the whole of human life is love. Actually, love is an insignificant part of life. I only know lust. This is normal and healthy. Love is a disease. In the following days, Zhang Yi has been observing the relationship between Zalkeda and Yang Mi. In order to intensify the conflict between them, Zhang Yi deliberately got close to Yang Mi when Zalkeda could see it. In the living room, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, on the toilet. He even took Zalkeda's clothes and put them on for Yang Mi, or took her to Zalkeda's room. Zalkeda naturally dared not complain to Zhang Yi, but this flame of jealousy deepened her hostility towards Yang Mi. What about Yang Mi herself? But after suffering an innocent disaster, coupled with the guilt towards Zalkeda in his heart, he could only work more honestly. After all, she can empathize with the pain that his wife is currently committing. As the instigator, Zhang Yi is very happy to see such a situation. First of all, he knew that Yang Mi still had the arrogance of a big star in her heart. Using Zalkeda can suppress the last bit of arrogance in her heart. Secondly, he doesn't need to worry about the two women joining forces to make trouble for him. The family is harmonious, and life is of course enjoyable. After leaving Yulu community, there are no troublesome neighbors around. He is at home every day, either playing sports with the two women, or letting them play cards or games with him. Zalkeda developed a strong interest in video games. She can often be seen wearing only underwear, sitting cross-legged on the sofa, and fighting fiercely with Zhang Yi. And the stranger from Zujia town whom he met before never appeared again. Probably the other party knew that Zhang Yi was not easy to mess with, so he didn't dare to cross the line again. After all, that guy was almost killed by Zhang Yi across the river that time. The life of the three of them was very comfortable. Out of guilt, Yang Mi did most of the housework. Zalkeda was not polite to her either. For Zhang Yi, this is the best arrangement. After all, Zalkeda is more useful to him. In case everyone gets sick one day, they will understand how important it is to have a doctor. But in the process of getting along, Zhang Yi discovered that Yang Mi is not just a vase with appearance. She is very demanding on the quality of life. In addition to being able to cook delicious meals, he even knows how to grow Limus chinensis. The half-abandoned botanical garden in the back was taken care of by her. Zhang Yi took some vegetables and plant seeds from another space for her and handed over the farmland and botanical garden to her. Yang Mi also enjoyed it. She finally found something she could do. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, would go underground in his spare time. Every day, he insists on doing two things. One is to use supercomputers to obtain limited intelligence from all over the world. Another thing is to exercise your abilities in the stadium. Zhang Yi originally thought that this kind of life would continue forever. The three of them stayed in this unbreakable shelter without worrying about hunger and cold until the end of the world. But suddenly one day, a phone call broke the peace. When Zhang Yi was on the second floor of the basement, using a compound bow to study the ability of precise shooting, the mobile phone in his pocket rang suddenly. Zhang Yi frowned, because the ringtone is not from the voice call, but from the phone dial. This is very abnormal. For many years, except for 10,086 calls and scam calls, he hardly ever received calls from acquaintances. We generally use more convenient voice calls to communicate. But now in the last days, there is neither 10,086 nor scam calls. Where did this ringtone come from? Zhang Yi took out his phone curiously and saw a very strange number. No notes. Obviously not someone he knew. Zhang Yi was very puzzled in his heart, but in the last days, he instinctively maintained a sense of crisis. The person is not good. Zhang Yi thought for a moment, then hung up the phone. Unexpectedly, the call came again soon. So anxious. Could it be that I have acquaintances who are still alive and can only contact me by phone? Zhang Yi shook his head. Not to mention that the probability of this is very low. Even if it is really an acquaintance from the past, he doesn't want to care about it. Zhang Yi hung up the phone again and blocked that person's cell phone number. But just as he was about to stuff the phone into his pocket, the phone rang again. It's the same number as before. Zhang Yi was really shocked. Isn't he blocked already? Why can the other party still call? Zhang Yi swallowed his saliva, already clearly aware that things are starting to go in a weird direction. In his mind, three words emerged. Don't answer. Don't answer. Don't answer. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, continued to hang up the phone, and blocked it again. It's possible that I didn't operate it well just now, so I made a mistake in blacklisting. It can't be so mysterious. Zhang Yi said to himself. This time he watched the number enter the blacklist with his own eyes. Then he stared at the phone screen. If he can still call this time, it really means hell. The facts did not disappoint him. A few seconds later, the phone rang again. It's the same number as before. Chapter 179, a weird call. Zhang Yi was completely speechless. There are indeed many things in this world that he cannot understand. Why didn't you answer my call? A faint voice came from the phone. After the number was dialed, it was connected by itself. Zhang Yi felt his scalp go numb for a while, but soon he calmed down. The situation, while bizarre, is still explainable. As long as the other party is a hacker, it is possible to do it. Who are you? Zhang Yi asked coldly. That person didn't answer Zhang Yi's question, but began to tell some information on his own. Zhang Yi, from Jinwan District, Chionhei City, lives in room 25, building 2401, Yulu Community. Born in 2025, 25 years old this year. He accurately stated Zhang Yi's personal information. Zhang Yi was even more convinced at this time that the opponent must be a top hacker. He has calculated thousands of times, but he has not calculated that someone will obtain his personal information through the internet. But after listening to the man's statement, Zhang Yi's mentality became much calmer. He used to be just an ordinary guy, nothing special. So what if he knew his information? Don't talk about the information. It's okay to send you nude photos if you have the ability to expose them. See if the man is afraid. Zhang Yi gained confidence and his voice became louder. You are a pervert. You secretly investigated a boy from a good family. How disgusting. The voice on the other side obviously paused. After 2 seconds, he replied, I also know that you live in room 101 of Young Manor now. That house belongs to Wang Ximing. He has already been killed by you, right? A cold light flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. I didn't expect the other party to know his current residence. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. He doesn't want anyone to know where he lives now. One more person who knows is equal to one more danger. Who are you? What is the purpose of looking for me? The man noticed the change in Zhang Yi's tone, thought he had caught Zhang Yi's handle and couldn't help feeling complacent. I'm your neighbor now. I live in Young Manor. But you'd better not get it wrong, otherwise I can expose your information at any time. I think you don't want other people to know about your living here, do you? Zhang Yi suddenly realized. No wonder that person found him and took great pains to find out his personal information. It would be easier if the other party was in Young Manor. Zhang Yi can find a chance to kill him so as to completely eliminate the aftermath. Zhang Yi said, "You called me just to talk about this? Tell me, what do you want to do?" The person opposite said, "It's very simple. I see that you have a lot of supplies in your hand, and you have extra supplies to support women. So I hope you can share some of it with me." "Giving it to you? Why?" Zhang Yi sneered. "Do you think that with these things in your hand, I can send you supplies? I'm not a big shot, and it's no big deal if the information gets out. If you are not afraid of death, just expose it." The man on the other end of the phone had a sarcastic tone. "However, what do you think will happen if someone finds out that you have the supplies that were lost in the Walmart warehouse?" Walmart warehouse. These few words made Zhang Yi cautious. Back then, 3 days before the end of the world, he emptied the entire Walmart South China warehouse worth tens of billions in one fell swoop. Those supplies are enough to sustain a city with tens of millions of people for a week. If it falls into the hands of an individual, it may not be used up in 10 lifetimes. Those things are also the biggest reliance on Zhang Yi's survival so far. However, due to time constraints and the involvement of foreign companies, that matter was left behind. How did the person on the other end of the phone know? "Who is he?" Zhang Yi said in a flat tone. "What are you talking about?" Walmart's warehouse was stolen, and the materials in the entire huge warehouse were lost. "Don't you think it was done by a small supervisor like me?" In the room on the other side of the phone, a greasy Mediterranean sits at the table. The lights are not turned on in the room to save electricity, and only a laptop computer is lit. He grinned and said mockingly, "You don't have to play tricks like this with me. That warehouse theft must have something to do with you. Even if you are not the mastermind, you must have a lot of supplies in your hands now. In such a large warehouse, even if you only buy one shelf, it will be enough for you to use it for a year." Under his thick lotus glasses, his small eyes shone with wisdom. "I'm not afraid to tell you my name, Xian Group, Lu Fengde. You should have heard of this name, right?" Zhang Yi has not only heard of it, but it is like thunder. He didn't expect that he would be targeted by such a character. But if it's him, then it all makes sense. Lu Fengde, the chairman of Xian Group, is a leading figure in the domestic information field. The Xian Group he built is also one of the 3 most powerful companies in the domestic information security field. It was a breeze for such a character to hack his own phone. Okay, wrong. Zhang Yi was vigilant. If he can control his mobile phone, then the entire shelter is controlled by a supercomputer. Could it have been hacked? There is indeed such a possibility. But the shelter was built by the world's top security company, costing $10 billion and has independent large-scale servers. To be reasonable, the issue of network security protection should be taken into consideration. Moreover, Lu Fengde is not in the company, and his home does not have enough network conditions for him to use his hacking skills. Therefore, the possibility of the shelter's network being hacked should not be very high. Otherwise, there would be no need for Lu Fengde to contact Zhang Yi through his mobile phone, but to directly control the network system of the shelter and demonstrate to him. Zhang Yi's eyes were cold, but his heart was full of fear for that person. For him, the case of the theft from the Walmart South China warehouse must never be leaked. Once it is known to the outside world, I'm afraid that it will not be ordinary people who will come to trouble him. Zhang Yi kept himself calm. He continued to say to Lu Fengde, "It turned out to be Mr. Lu. I have admired you for a long time. No wonder you can hack into my mobile phone." Lu Fengde said, "In order to survive, I have to do it. Zhang Yi, you have a lot of supplies on hand. Since you can support 2 women, it is not a problem to support me. As long as you provide me with the supplies to maintain my life, I will help you keep this secret. And I can also help you maintain network security, so that you will no longer be hacked. What do you think?" Of course, Zhang Yi will not admit that the Walmart warehouse theft has anything to do with him. It is very likely that Lu Fengde is just deceiving him. Chapter 180. Zhang Yi said calmly, "Mr. Lu, don't make such a joke. Do you think that I, a small supervisor, have such great ability?" Lu Fengde snorted coldly. "Zhang Yi, I've lived such an old age, and I've seen more things than you can imagine. Do you think I'll say that without proof? Tell you, through your mobile phone network, I can get a lot of information about you," he said firmly. "You must have the supplies that were stolen from the Walmart warehouse in your hands." Zhang Yi's eyes were full of murderous intent. He gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. "Damn old thing, I must kill you. Young Manor is worthy of being the top wealthy area in Xianhe City, and there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers inside." He didn't consider this point, and he couldn't think about it at all. The world is unpredictable. Zhang Yi knew that the matter could not be hidden, so he could only say coldly, "I do have some supplies in my hand, but I sold most of them for money. After all, there is not much space at home, so it is impossible to store too many things." Lu Fengde nodded, and he also thought it was reasonable to say so. In fact, he doesn't think that all the stolen materials from the Walmart warehouse are in Zhang Yi's hands, because in his logic, there is no such thing as the so-called space system ability. That's not important. As long as I spread the news, your life will definitely not be so easy. So, will you agree to my request? Zhang Yi knew that Lu Fengde had the ability to spread the news, and it is likely to let everyone know that he has stolen supplies from Walmart warehouses. Not to mention faraway places, people in the entire Xianhe city will be eager to get the supplies in his hands. If you investigate deeply, it may even expose his space system abilities. At that time, it will be all over. Zhang Yi knew that there were still many powerful forces hidden in Xianhe City. Those powerful figures are hiding underground. They also have powerful armed forces in their hands. As far as Zhang Yi knows, there are troops stationed there, as well as some security personnel. Even with a powerful shelter, Zhang Yi doesn't want to cause those troubles. He rubbed his forehead and said to Lu Fengde in a deep voice, "Okay, I can provide you with some supplies. But you must not disclose this matter at all. Otherwise, I will kill you first." Lu Fengde on the opposite side was ecstatic and repeatedly agreed, "Don't worry, I'm not stupid. God knows this matter. You know me. We all have a happy cooperation. Ha ha ha." Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Lu Fengde laughed happily. Then he began to make demands. "I need food, liquor, underwear, cotton socks. You bring me these things." Zhang Yi asked, "How can I give you those supplies?" Lu Fengde hesitated for a moment and said, "I live in villa number 302. You deliver the supplies to my door. Don't play tricks with me, otherwise, I will expose your news. Then you will live in an uneasy life." Zhang Yi said, "Don't worry, I'm living a very comfortable life now, and I don't want to cause trouble for myself." After finishing speaking, Zhang Yi hung up the phone. The murderous intent in his eyes was terrifying. He was actually blackmailed by others. This Lu Fengde must die. There is absolutely no second possibility. Killing intent filled Zhang Yi's mind. At this moment, he wished he could rush into Lu Fengde's house with a gun and kill him. But reason told him that it was obviously unreliable to do so. An old fox like Lu Fengde dared to tell him his address, obviously because he was not afraid of him passing by. Zhang Yi took a few deep breaths. He rubbed his head, feeling that he couldn't keep calm now, and his thinking mode was overheated. Thinking of this, he left the basement and went to find Zhao Keller. Zhao Keller was sitting on the sofa in the living room reading a book. She was wearing a light purple tank top with shorts on the lower body. Two slender and round thighs overlapped on the sofa, and her white feet were delicate and lovely. Zhao Keller is a model herself, and these two long legs are particularly eye-catching, and they are also Zhang Yi's favorite. He came over, covered her face with his hands from behind, and kissed her hard on the lips. Sweet, refreshing and delicious. "Baby, I have something to talk to you about." Zhao Keller curled up her legs with a smile, tilted her head and said, "Okay." Zhang Yi sat down next to her, reached out to take her drinking cup, and took a sip. "That's what happened. Our current location was discovered by others." He briefly told Zhao Keller about Lu Fengde. Of course, he hid the fact that he emptied Walmart warehouses. He just told her that Lu Fengde knew that he had a lot of supplies, so he threatened him. After Zhao Ke listened, she also felt that things were a bit troublesome. Zhang Yi said, "You have dealt with this kind of person more times than me. According to your understanding, what would he do?" Zhao Ke thought about it seriously for a while, before expressing her thoughts cautiously. "I have indeed come into contact with some such characters. They may not be as exhaustive as ordinary people imagine, but their IQ level is definitely quite high." She looked at Zhang Yi and added, "At the same time, the moral level is quite low. A person with too high a moral level cannot become a successful businessman." Zhang Yi nodded. "Of course I understand this. I don't know how many of those famous big entrepreneurs went to jail. And those dirty things in the dark are unavoidable. The moral bottom line is not low enough to make the business bigger. I want to kill him. But I'm worried that he will have someone behind me waiting for me. That's why I dare not do it. But letting him live means that I have to be blackmailed by him all the time. I absolutely cannot tolerate this kind of thing." Zhao Ke nodded. She understood Zhang Yi's temper. The biggest threat to you in his hands is that he has your information. And the leakage of this information is likely to pose a threat to you. Right? Zhang Yi nodded. "That's right." Zhao Ke frowned, biting her tender fingers lightly. She murmured, "It's going to be terrible." "How to say?" Zhang Yi asked. Zhao Ke looked at him, with a sparkle in his eyes. "I've heard of something before. A big shot in the internet field colluded with a corrupt official. Later, when the corrupt official was investigated, he went to the big internet boss. In order to destroy the evidence, the corrupt officials attacked the internet boss and found someone to kill him. But in the end, the evidence in the hands of the internet boss was directly exposed on the internet." Zhang Yi said, "I seem to have heard of this story too. The internet tycoon stored the evidence on a network disk and set up a program to automatically distribute it to the network. Unless he personally operates it every day, he can stop this program. So as soon as he died, the evidence spread all over the internet the next day." Zhao Ke nodded. "This is what I'm most worried about. In other words, even if you kill him, you may not be able to prevent our intelligence from leaking." Chapter 181 The truth is hidden in lies. Zhang Yi fell into silence. In the current predicament, for him, no matter how he chooses, there are omissions. If Lu Fengde is not killed, he will have to be threatened by the other party all the time. Moreover, an old fox like Lu Fengde who has been in the mall all year round is better at playing tricks than him. As time goes by, Lu Fengde will only push forward and grab more benefits from Zhang Yi. But what about killing him? Zhang Yi was also worried about risking the news being exposed. This feeling is very similar to the dilemma faced by Trislerans when they face logic. He obviously has the strength to easily destroy the opponent, but he dare not do it out of fear. Zhao Ke frowned slightly, also thinking of a way for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi felt depressed, so he grabbed her tender little foot and played with it in his hand, broadening his thinking by the way. Zhao Ke's face was rosy, and his thoughts began to become confused. Her beautiful eyes showed amorous feelings, and she looked at Zhang Yi shyly. "If you really can't think of a way, let's relax first. There is no rush on this matter. We can pretend to him first, and then slowly think of a countermeasure." Zhang Yi shook his head. "It's not good for us to delay for too long. The point is, if I can't think of a solution to this problem, I will feel aggrieved and panicked." Neither of them could come up with a good idea. At this time, Yang Mi came back from the botanical garden. Seeing Zhang Yi with a serious face on the sofa, she couldn't help asking, "What happened?" Zhang Yi looked at Yang Mi. To be honest, he didn't fully trust Yang Mi yet, and he didn't intend to discuss this matter with her. But now, one more brain might give one more idea. Moreover, Yang Mi has rich social experience and is her own boss, so she might be able to help out with some ideas. "Big honey, come here. I have something to discuss with you." Zhang Yi called Yang Mi to his side and asked her to sit on the other side of him. Then he told her the matter concisely. Yang Mi frowned when she heard what Lu Fengde did. "This matter is very difficult. He is a very cunning person. It is impossible not to prevent you from attacking him." She let out a long sigh. "This is the so-called spread rumors, and it's too late to refute the rumors. People in the entertainment industry have suffered a lot from it. It's disgusting." Yang Mi's casual words solved Zhang Yi's doubts. There was a flash of inspiration in his mind, as if he had caught something. Wait a minute. You just said it was a rumor? Zhang Yi said. That's right. Isn't he spreading your news to the outside world, just like those unscrupulous media stars in the entertainment industry who spread rumors? He doesn't have any valid evidence in his hand, does he? Zhao Ken snorted disdainfully. The key is that at this time, even if it is a rumor, someone will believe it when it comes out of Lu Fengda's mouth. Zhang Yi propped his chin with both hands, and his brain was working rapidly. Lu Fengda has information about me, but these information are not solid evidence, but if it gets out, it may still cause trouble. I have no way to stop him from sending out the information. After all, we don't have experts in computers. However, if this matter is treated as a rumor, then there may be no way out. Zhang Yi's eyes gradually brightened, and a scheme began to take shape in his heart. Zhao Ke and Zhang Yi looked at Zhang Yi curiously. What are you going to do? Zhang Yi smiled mysteriously, and didn't tell the two of them. I have to prepare first, and I'll tell you when I'm ready. He kissed each of the two women's cheeks. It is indeed more useful to discuss with someone around you than to think hard alone. Then he left the living room, and walked towards the control room on the first floor. After Zhang Yi closed the door, and made sure no one could disturb him, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Lu Fengda's number. The call was quickly connected. Hey, Zhang Yi, are your things ready? Zhang Yi was a little impatient, and said in a bad tone, why are you in a hurry? Do you really think I have a lot of supplies? Damn it, if you don't have something to do with me, I really want to kill you. Zhang Yi's harsh tone angered Lu Fengda. He laughed loudly. Stupid boy. If you kill me, you won't live for a few days. Let me tell you, it's best not to think about me. Once I die, within 24 hours, your information will be automatically sent to everyone's mobile phone in Xianhai City. At that time, imagine how serious the consequences will be. Within 24 hours. After a little thought in Zhang Yi's mind, he had a concept of time. It seems that after Lu Fengda called him, he set up the scheduled automatic upload of information. HMPH, you are cruel. Wait for me for a while, and I will send it to you. Zhang Yi hung up the phone with a smile on his lips. Then he turned on the supercomputer in the control room. This computer has its own server, which can be connected to the internet throughout Blue Star through the Nebula satellite network in outer space. Naturally, it can also cover the entire Xianhai City. After Zhang Yi thought for a while, he had an idea in his mind. He doesn't know much about computers, but it's barely enough. For example, posting on the few remaining urban forums in Xianhai City, and use group sending software to send messages to everyone. The mystery of the theft of materials from Walmart's South China warehouse. It has been confirmed that it was Walmart who stole the material themselves and transported the materials back to China in advance. Where did the tens of billions worth of supplies in the Walmart warehouse go? According to eyewitnesses, armed forces appeared that night and escorted them under top secret escort. The police kept silent about this matter. Reveal the secret. The largest material theft case in Xianhai City is directly related to the snow disaster. Some witnesses saw an alien flying saucer. Zhang Yi thought hard for a while and conceived all kinds of gaudy news. The best way to bury the truth is to bury it in a mass of lies. Then no one can tell the truth from the fake. Might not be able to fool everyone, but definitely make most people think it's all bullshit. Naturally, the delayed news from Lu Fengda would not be trusted. In this way, the risk of Zhang Yi being discovered can be greatly reduced. Zhang Yi edited the content, saved it first, and did not send it out in a hurry. Because the said sending range and target are everyone in Xianhai City, only these people are likely to come in the frozen world and become his threat. So far, that's about it. I can only deal with it here. As for whether I can succeed or not, it depends on God's will. Zhang Yi is ready for the worst outcome. But Lu Fengda, this person must die. Chapter 182 Sniper. According to Lu Fengda's request, Zhang Yi put the materials to be prepared into a canvas bag. Then he put on his equipment and walked towards Lu Fengda's residence with his bag. Zhang Yi was very cautious, holding an explosion-proof shield in his hand to prevent Lu Fengda from shooting him with a gun in his hand. He walked to the door of Villa 302 step by step, and then put the canvas bag on the steps of the door. After doing this, he left the villa step by step. Zhang Yi went far away and then hid behind a pine tree. The branches are covered with snow, which is a good sight block. In his hand, a sniper rifle wrapped in white cloth strips appeared impressively. It is no longer the previous police sniper rifle, but replaced with a military model with stronger environmental adaptability. Because this type of gun can also maintain good performance in extreme environments. He knelt down, using the tree branch as a fulcrum, and aimed at the canvas bag at the door. At a distance of 500 meters, as soon as Lu Fengde appears, he can kill the opponent immediately. After making all preparations, Zhang Yi took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Lu Fengde. "It's at your door." There was no response there. Zhang Yi frowned slightly, holding his gun quietly waiting for Lu Fengde's appearance in the dark. However, after a long time, there was no movement at the door of their house. Okay. Zhang Yi felt a little strange. This old thing, did he not receive his message? Subconsciously, he wanted to take out his mobile phone and make a call to Lu Fengde. But the moment his hand touched the phone, he stopped the movement in his hand. Wrong. If I call him again, or send a message, it means I know he didn't take it back. If he does this on purpose, he will definitely suspect that I'm nearby. Zhang Yi took a slow breath and continued to stare at the scope. Wait. He would rather risk his life to contact me to get supplies. It is impossible not to come out. Unless he's dead. Zhang Yi maintained a kneeling posture, and the camera never left the canvas bag for a moment. Fortunately, he was wearing the best cold-proof clothing, otherwise his right leg would be frozen to death for at most 10 minutes. Time passed by minute. After about 15 minutes, the door of Villa 302 was slowly pushed open. The barrel of a double-barreled shotgun protruded first, and cautiously swept around. After confirming that there was no danger nearby, a short little old man moved out of the house step by step. Almost no one who has been on the internet is unfamiliar with Lu Fengde's face, so it is very easy to confirm his identity. He looked down at the canvas bag on the ground, and was about to go there to pick it up. Boom. In an instant, a deafening roar sounded in the community. A big hole was pierced through Lu Fengde's head, and his whole body was brought down, hitting the door before landing hard. After seeing the success, Zhang Yi quickly put away the sniper rifle, then took out an assault rifle, and rushed towards Villa 302. Coming to Lu Fengde, Zhang Yi first aimed another shot at his forehead, and then rushed into the room decisively. Although Lu Fengde's villa is not as huge as Wang Ximing's shelter, its area is not small. What Zhang Yi is looking for is his computer that can send messages regularly. He didn't let go of every corner of the room. As long as it was electronic equipment, he took it immediately and destroyed it immediately. Soon he found Lu Fengde's room, where he saw a large computer mainframe on the workbench and 3 monitors. Zhang Yi raised the butt of the gun in his hand and was about to smash it down, but hesitated again. The computer used by Lu Fengde at home must be very precious, and there may be many precious materials hidden in it. Into my different space, the information inside can't be sent out either. Zhang Yi is a very economical person, and never wastes a grain of rice. So he stuffed the whole computer into his own different space. After doing this, Zhang Yi let out a long breath. It will depend on God's will. The physical equipment was completely destroyed by him, but the other party still had the possibility of using the cloud equipment to operate. Zhang Yi doesn't know much about these high-end computer technologies, so he is not sure whether Lu Fengde can do it. But since the other party is the leading computer field boss in China, this possibility is very high. Go back now and spread smoke bombs on the internet. Even if the information about me is really leaked, it will confuse the public and prevent them from suspecting me. Zhang Yi left Lu Fengde's home. Lu Fengde's body was lying at the door, and the blood flowing from his head had frozen into blood-red ice crystals. Zhang Yi groped around him again. To find a valuable Patek Philippe watch, you need at least tens of millions to start. A piece of very fine jadeite guanine was hung around his neck, and it was covered with pulp. In addition, a mobile phone was found in his pocket. Zhang Yi threw Patek Philippe's watch and mobile phone into a different space. As for the encrusted jade guanine, he left it for Lu Fengde to be buried with him. In the last days, these luxuries are not as valuable as a piece of bread. After doing this, Zhang Yi immediately returned to the shelter and then scattered smoke bombs on the internet. By the time he's done with everything, it's going to be late at night. Zhang Yi twisted his neck and walked out of the control room with a stretched waist. Zhao Ke came over and said with concern, "Zhang Yi, what have you been doing in there for a long time? You must be hungry after not eating for so long. I made you braised kidney with bullwhip and a pot of chicken soup. The pot is hot. Come over and have a drink." Zhang Yi said with a smile, "Alright, I'm a little hungry. It is good to have two women who know the cold and the hot in the family." Zhang Yi will protect this happy life at all costs. Yang Mi was also in the living room, and they all knew that Zhang Yi was doing something very important. So both of them were waiting for Zhang Yi to finish his work. Zhang Yi sat on the table. One of the two women brought bowls and chopsticks, and the other served him soup. While drinking the soup, Zhang Yi asked, "Have you received any news on your mobile phone?" Both Zhao Ke and Yang Mi said that they had received news about the theft in the Walmart warehouse. "It's a mess. I received several messages. I don't know what it means." Zhao Ke looked at the information on the phone with a puzzled look on his face. Yang Mi also said, "I feel like I'm trying to cover up." Zhang Yi took a sip of mullet egg soup. Not to mention, bastard soup is indeed delicious. It was meant to be a cover up. It was a smoke bomb I'll let out. From now to tomorrow, within 48 hours, hundreds of messages will be sent to social forums throughout Qianhai City, as well as everyone's mobile phones. Since he couldn't completely stop Lu Fengde from sending out the news, he just had to use a lot of useless information to cover up the truth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183, Making Traps. Zhao Ke arrested her cheeks and said doubtfully, "But isn't this appearance even more suspicious?" Yang Mi also frowned slightly. "That's right. This topic has been brought up all of a sudden. It's easy to attract people's attention." Zhang Yi ate a fishbowl and said calmly, "It is inevitable to attract attention. Whether I post these messages or not, Lu Fengde will definitely post them. So spreading these smoke bombs can confuse the public. With so much information, I don't believe that in today's world, others will have so much energy to judge the authenticity one by one." He drank the soup. "What's more, compared to the major official organizations mentioned in the news I spread, as well as the major companies in Qianhai City, the possibility of me personally committing the crime has become the smallest." Yang Mi's eyes lit up. She looked at Zhang Yi and said, "Indeed, it's really smart to do this." She said with a look of reminiscence, "It seems that if someone in our entertainment industry has a scandal, but as long as there is an accident with a bigger star, the previous incident will be quickly forgotten." Yang Mi was lying on the table, her chin propped up with two small white hands. Her proud career line was naturally highlighted, allowing people to clearly see the large area of whiteness and the depth of the ravine. She looked at Zhang Yi's side face, and there was a look of appreciation in her eyes. It seems that the man in front of him is not just handsome and capable, but also very smart. At this moment, Zhao Ke looked at the information on the phone, and suddenly tilted his head and said something. "However, these messages are all sent from your computer. If someone can trace the IP address, wouldn't they find you all at once?" There was a subtle change in Yang Mi's eyes. "That's right. For all information, whether Zhang Yi sends it anonymously or through multiple accounts, the IP address is unique. If you encounter a person or organization with information capabilities, you can easily find out that Zhang Yi is behind the scenes. At that time, his suspicion will become the biggest." Zhang Yi's face remained calm, and he continued to drink the soup with his head down. Zhao Ke noticed something was wrong with the atmosphere, and quickly apologized. "That's not what I mean. After all, there are not many living people in Qianhai City now. Not many people know the IP of the anti-reconnaissance network. So, Zhang Yi, your approach is still very successful." Zhang Yi took a sip of the soup, picked up the bastard's lid casually, and gnawed on the layer of skin on it. While gnawing, he said in a calm tone, "Unless the world completely enters the primitive society, or we live in the way of primitive people. Otherwise, it is impossible to completely hide the trace." I didn't expect to be able to completely hide it from everyone's eyes. But by doing so, at least most people will not directly suspect me. And for those organizations with strong cyber capabilities, it is also inevitable that they will come into contact with them. Zhang Yi had such a realization long ago. Even in the end of the Ice Age, network communication still exists. If the top officials want to find someone, it should not be too simple. It's just that without the unexpected appearance of Lu Fengde, Zhang Yi felt that he could at least have a year and a half of leisure time. Unexpectedly, in less than half a month, the peaceful life was broken. He has nothing to regret either. He doesn't like the feeling of being blackmailed, so killing Lu Fengde is a must. Although I really hate being found out about my residence, but with this shelter, no one can pose a danger to our safety, unless an organization with the top armed forces comes. His own personal force, coupled with the almost inexhaustible food in his hands, and this shelter, which costs $10 billion and claims to be able to prevent H attacks, are his last and greatest reliance. Seeing Zhang Yi's calm appearance, Zhao Ke and Yang Mi seemed to have found a backbone in their hearts. No matter how smart they are women after all. The vast majority of women in this world are used to relying on men in times of crisis. Except for a few strong women. We are relieved to hear you say that. Yang Mi patted her white and fat chest and said with joy. Zhang Yi glanced at her with a smile. Don't be too happy. Although I'm very confident in keeping this home, you can't be idle in the future. Yang Mi's face turned red immediately. She pursed her lips lightly. Her eyes hinted that there was someone besides Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was speechless. Boy, is this the only thing on your mind right now? Yang Mi is actually very innocent. Because besides doing housework every day, she really can't help Zhang Yi in other aspects. Zhang Yi raised his hand and gave her smooth forehead a blow. You guys have to help me make a trap. Oops. Yang Mi covered her forehead and cast a reproachful glance at Zhang Yi. She and Zhao Ke looked at Zhang Yi suspiciously. A trap? Zhang Yi nodded. The defense of this house is amazing. The purpose of construction is to prevent war or large-scale natural disasters. However, they didn't consider well enough about man-made disasters. We can't blame them. After all, Huago has strict control over weapons. So the shelter doesn't have a good enough counter-attack force. I'm going to lay tight traps around the shelter. A cold light flashed in his eyes. If anyone dares to hit our mines, let them come and go. Zhao Ke nodded immediately and said, Zhang Yi, if there is anything I can help, just tell me. Ever since Yang Mi appeared, a sense of crisis gradually emerged in her heart. Therefore, he is more proactive in helping Zhang Yi to do some things. Yang Mi also immediately said, I don't know much about traps. Anyway, I will do the tasks you have arranged for me. Zhang Yi nodded. Well, that's good. He immediately took out a lot of things from the different space, most of which were hardware products. Crash fell to the ground. Among them, there are more than a dozen boxes of palm-length steel nails, ropes, wires, bear traps. The two women were dazzled by these things. Zhang Yi picked up a centimeters-long steel nail from the ground and said to them, traps set in this kind of snow are the most difficult to be found. Next, I'll tell you how to do it. And you have to listen carefully, especially remember the location when setting up traps. Otherwise, if one day we go out and get caught in the trap set by ourselves, it will be a tragedy. Chapter 184 Setting the Trap. Both Zhao Ke and Yang Mi realized that there might be real danger approaching next. They didn't dare to be careless, and the sense of vigilance in their hearts made them concentrate on studying. Zhang Yi took out a wooden board and then brought a hammer. Nails scattered on the ground can't pierce people, so nail them to the wooden board. After being buried in the snow, they can penetrate the soles of people's feet at once. However, it is not enough to use only such steel nails. They are too smooth and can be pulled out with a single pull. As Zhang Yi said, he took out another box of long screws. Use this with the nails. The nails are more penetrating and the screws are more damage. Got it? The two women sat aside, remembering carefully. Seeing the sharp long steel nail and the circles of threads on the screw, the two of them couldn't help but think that, after it was stuck into the sole of the foot, once it was pulled out forcefully, it would bring out a lot of flesh and blood. Thinking of this, Yang Mi immediately curled up her little black feet, as if she had already felt a terrible pain. Zhao Ke listened very seriously. As a doctor, she said she was still a little kiss for such a small scene. Zhang Yi picked up a wooden board and made a simple trap in a few minutes. At least 1,000 of this kind of nail traps must be made. If there are fewer, we will add more later. Spread all 100 meters around the villa. After speaking, he took out another large bear trap. The sharp jagged edge makes one's scalp tingle just by looking at it. He introduced, "You should have seen this thing on TV. If a wolf cub is caught by it, its legs might be broken directly. When a person is caught, it will directly penetrate the flesh and hurt the bone. In other words, it can directly destroy a person. Its layout is very particular. If it is placed on the periphery, it may be tested out with a wooden stick. Therefore, it should be placed in the inner circle of the nail board trap. Okay, you just need to get rid of these 2 traps. I will arrange the rest alone." Zhao Ke and Zhang Mi nodded. According to Zhang Yi's command, the two began to pick up the hammer and ping pong pong to create a large number of nail board traps. Zhang Yi himself was not idle. He stood at the window looking out at the terrain. There are 2 intersections leading to Villa 101 from the outside world, which are also the only way to come here. It occurred to Zhang Yi that he had found 2 detonating landmines in the arsenal of the Xianhe military camp point. It can just be buried in the middle of the 2 must-pass roads. That is, if he goes out by himself in the future, he must carefully avoid it, because the power of this thing is too great, and it can blow up tanks and armored vehicles. If it's used to blow people up, I'm afraid I won't be able to spell it all out. These traps are most effective the first time they are used. But if someone is using a tool to clean the pegboard, you have to figure out how to deal with it. After Zhang Yi thought for a while, he also had a countermeasure in his mind. The 3 of them worked for a long time before finishing the 1,000 nail boards requested by Zhang Yi. Yang Mi's hands were blistered, and she frowned in pain point, but at this time, she didn't even complain. She understands that her effect on Zhang Yi is far inferior to that of Zhao Ke, who is a doctor. If she was asked to complain about every little thing, then sooner or later, the favorability of the idol halo would slowly dissipate. She needs to show her role in order to get Zhang Yi's protection. Zhang Yi saw it, and although he didn't say anything, his affirmation of Yang Mi increased a bit. Okay, let's go. The 3 of them put on winter clothes, went out and started setting up around 101. Zhang Yi didn't dare to be careless, and took them to set up traps one by one. Moreover, Zhang Yi had to personally inspect the traps they set up, and ask them to rectify if they found any inappropriate ones. Don't place the nail board too loosely. The best effect is that after the person steps on a nail board, the body falls down, and then another nail board is inserted into it. If it is inserted into the chest, face, or neck, it can kill a person directly. The nail board doesn't need to be buried too deep, just enough to bury it. Because the snow is still falling, the traces of the trap will be completely erased later. Although it was Zhang Yi's first time to set up this kind of trap, but because he had experienced the intrigue and life and death struggle in Yulu district, he already had a wealth of experience in how to kill the enemy quickly and effectively. Zhao Ke and Yang Mi were obedient and arranged according to what Zhang Yi said. It's just that they were still a little scared, as if they were afraid that they would accidentally step on a trap. Zhang Yi will pay attention to them and protect their safety. After placing these traps and nail boards, Zhang Yi carefully avoided these traps and walked to the center of the 2 aisles. He took out an engineering shovel, dug 2 deep pits of more than 1 meter in the snow, and then carefully placed the detonated landmines in them. For the sake of safety, he was also fully armed when setting up the trap, and all protective equipment was put on. And he also opened the gate of the dimension in front of him. If there is an accidental explosion, the dimensional gate can swallow most of the shrapnel and shockwaves. Zhang Yi carefully placed the mine down, then filled it up with snow, and leveled the surface with a sapper shovel. Turn around and it snows, and there will be no traces here. The biggest advantage of this detonated trigger mine is that it does not need to be stepped on, but is detonated with an electronic detonator. Therefore, although it is buried about 1.5 meters deep in the snow, as long as Zhang Yi senses that someone is approaching, he can detonate it manually. So even if someone came to explore the way, it would not be detonated. Zhang Yi used these 2 landmines to deal with a large number of enemies or powerful aliens. Both mines were placed by Zhang Yi in this way. The next step is to prevent the opponent from clearing the trap. The pegboards are buried in the snow, and if the opponent uses a fork or something to clean them along the snow, they can catch all the pegboards and traps. Therefore, Zhang Yi thought of an excellent solution. The same is the use of steel wire, tied to the pull ring of the grenade, and then tied in the depths of the snow. In this way, whether it is kicked on the steel wire, or triggered by a tool, it will cause an explosion. And Zhang Yi arranged this kind of grenade trap on the outermost periphery of the trap. This will make the other party be cautious, and dare not carry out large-scale cleaning under the snow. Zhang Yi carefully set up the traps, and he placed at least 101 grenade traps in the vicinity of 30. Now anyone who wants to get close to 101 is impossible without paying more than a dozen lives. Even dozens of lives. It should be almost enough to do this. Zhang Yi exhaled a puff of white smoke softly, muttering to himself. If you encounter professional armed forces, the lethality may be weakened. But as long as the opponent is not a well-trained professional soldier, if they want to get close to their villa, they have to die. And in addition to these, Zhang Yi also has 2 defenses. He turned his head and glanced at the shelter as huge as a black fortress. There are 10-meter-long passages, hypnotic gas, tear gas, and high-temperature injectors that can melt steel at thousands of degrees Celsius. As for the last line of defense, that is Zhang Yi himself. Chapter 185 Waiting. After setting up the trap, the 3 returned to the room. It was the first time for Yang Mi and Zhao Ke to participate in such a dangerous activity. And after that, it is very likely that someone will die because of the trap they set up. This feeling made them extremely nervous, but there was also an inexplicable excitement. After all, they have never had this experience. Yang Mi's eyes were shining with complex light, and she felt a little eager to try. Zhang Yi, when will the enemy come? Looking at Yang Mi's expectant eyes, Zhang Yi couldn't help laughing and said, I wish I was busy for nothing, but you really hope that others will come and attack us. However, it shouldn't be soon. He pointed to his head. Normal people with a little bit of brain would not easily attack others at such a time. No one who can live to this day is simple. Yang Mi rested her chin in one hand and looked out the window. So this is She didn't know whether she wanted others to come and step on her trap, or whether she hoped that she could always be in a peaceful and boring safe environment. Just as she was in a daze, she suddenly heard a piercing sound. Yang Mi turned her head to look over and found that Zhang Yi was using a welding machine to install a door bolt on the passage. What are you doing? Are these 2 thick metal doors not safe enough? Zhang Yi thought of the dead Lu Fengde. He continued to install door bolts on both sides of the passage, and then said, in this villa, most areas have been automated. In other words, if someone can hack into our control center, they can easily open these 2 doors. The advancement of technology sometimes brings huge flaws. But the basic principles of physics can't lie. Zhang Yi installed 3 door bolts on the passageway, all of which were inserted with construction steel bars with a diameter of 10 centimeters. In this way, even if someone breaks through to the passage, it is impossible to break all 3 steel bars in a short time. Be careful and live long. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said seriously. Looking at Zhang Yi, who is so cautious, Yang Mi was quite speechless, while Zhao Ke was already used to it. Zhao Ke looked at Zhang Yi with a smile on her face, her eyes filled with admiration. Yang Mi thought about it carefully and felt that Zhang Yi's actions were very reasonable. A man who is very cautious and afraid of death, although his method of doing things is a little rough, but he must live longer than ordinary people. Looking at the layout inside and outside of the shelter, Zhang Yi felt a lot more at ease in his heart. The only thing that worries him is network security. It would be great if there is a master who is proficient in the internet here. Zhang Yi couldn't help talking to himself. Hearing Zhang Yi's words, a sad look suddenly appeared on Yang Mi's face. Xingxin is pretty good at networking. It's a pity. Hearing this sentence, Zhang Yi couldn't help looking over. What happened? Zhao Ke suddenly thought of something and asked Yang Mi, isn't Xingxin studying in Qianhe City? Do you know how she is doing now? Is she still alive? Halfway through Zhao Ke's speech, her tone gradually weakened. Under the blizzard, how many people can survive? If she hadn't met Zhang Yi at the beginning, she would have become a frozen corpse now, even with no bones left, and became someone else's food. Seeing Zhang Yi's questioning eyes, Zhao Keller explained to Zhang Yi. It turned out that Yang Mi had a cousin who was studying in Qianhe City. Her name was Yang Xingxin. As mentioned before, the Yang family is a scholarly family, and everyone in the family is a genius. Except for Yang Mi, who is not good at studying and embarking on the road of showbiz. There is no one who is not an elite in their respective fields. For example, Zhao Keller, who was only 26 years old, has already obtained a doctorate from a world-class medical school, and is an attending physician in a tertiary hospital. And Yang Xingxin is 18 years old this year, studying at Qianqing Academy, a famous aristocratic school in Qianhe City. She had been in poor health since she was a child, and her legs were paralyzed due to polio. However, her mind is extremely clever, and she has a terrifying talent for computers. It is said that when she was 16 years old, she won awards in the international computer field. And according to Zhao Keller, she is secretly a top hacker in the world. 2 years ago, the official website of the Grey Palace in the country of Rice was planted with the national flag of China. She did that action. After Zhang Yi listened to Zhao Keller's narration, he couldn't help but sigh. The gap between people is simply greater than the gap between humans and dogs. Then where is she now? Can you find her here? Zhang Yi urgently needs a computer expert to maintain network security for him. Yang Mi closed her eyes with a painful expression and slowly shook her head. She has been out of touch for a long time. After the snowstorm came, I tried to contact her, but there was no news from her. With her ability, if she is still alive, there must be a way to contact me. If she can't, it can only mean. Yang Mi's voice was a little choked up, her eyes were moist, and she turned her head away. Zhao Keller also had a sad face. Although she and Yang Xingxin didn't have much contact, they were still cousins. Zhang Yi thought for a while, but raised his head and said to Yang Mi, "Could it be that people are too lazy to talk to you?" Gap. Yang Mi thought she could get comfort from Zhang Yi, but she didn't expect him to ask such a nonsensical question. She stomped her feet in anger. "What are you doing? Why do you say such things?" Zhang Yi said calmly, "After all, you see, everyone in your family is a genius, but you are just an idiot in their eyes. If you are in danger, who will ask for your help? You are necrotic." Yang Mi couldn't help but clenched her small fist and quickly beat Zhang Yi's chest, neither light nor heavy. Well, comfortable continue. The originally heavy atmosphere was eased. Zhang Yi still had some regrets in his heart. If that girl named Yang Xingxin was still alive, it would be a good choice for her to join his team. After all, her legs are paralyzed, so she is not a big threat to Zhang Yi. Moreover, both Yang Mi and Zhao Keller are so beautiful. She is their younger sister. Can she be less beautiful? The genes are here. Oh, what a pity, what a pity. Zhang Yi sighed. But since you can't get something, it's useless to make a fuss. Anyway, the shelter's network itself has a powerful firewall. It is not so easy to be broken through if you encounter a particularly powerful network master. Next, there is only one thing we have to do, and that is to wait. Zhang Yi squinted his eyes with deep eyes. Chapter 186 Development of Abilities. The subsequent development. Everything is as Zhang Yi expected. Sure enough, Lu Fengde set up a program to automatically send messages. Just 22 hours after his death, the programmed program sent a text message to everyone in Qianhe City. The content of the text message indicated Zhang Yi's identity and current address, as well as information that he might have a large amount of stolen goods from the Walmart warehouse. Zhang Yi has been waiting for this news to appear all the time. After actually seeing it, I felt a long sigh of relief in my heart. Because according to Lu Fengde, it is only Zhang Yi has a huge amount of stolen goods from the Walmart warehouse in his hands. Huge number is not all. Moreover, there is no quantitative standard for this huge number. After all, Lu Fengde himself didn't know how much Zhang Yi had. Moreover, his brain circuit did not expect Zhang Yi to have spatial abilities. This is a good thing. At least it can reduce the level of danger I face a lot. In this era of extremely scarce materials, if people really know that he holds all the materials in a super warehouse, no one in the world will be able to keep calm. However, Lu Fengde's news has been covered up by him with a large amount of information. Among other things, it is difficult for ordinary people or forces to analyze which one is true from the massive amount of false information. If someone can find it, it must be not an ordinary organization, or they have computer experts, Zhang Yi said to himself. But all of this is within his calculations, so there is nothing surprising about it. Zhang Yi put the phone aside and looked up at an archery target 400 meters away. What is the concept of a 400-meter archery target? A target at this distance doesn't even look as big as a mosquito's head. But at this time, there were already 7 or 8 arrows stuck in it. Zhang Yi raised the high-tech composite bow with his left hand and took out a bow and arrow from the quiver at his waist with his right hand and put it on the bowstring. With the help of the pulley block, drawing the compound bow is very easy. His gaze was exceptionally focused. A strange force emerged from his right eye and attached to the bow and arrow following his thoughts. Call out. The arrow flew out fiercely. It seems that there is an invisible force wrapping it tightly, making the arrow faster. Duh. The arrow pierced fiercely into the target, and the tail shook wildly. Hit the bullseye. After more than half a month of unremitting training, Zhang Yi has developed some other abilities from his abilities. This is the expansion of the precision shooting ability. This is an ability that can affect space. As long as he deliberately attaches the ability to objects, its power will be enhanced. If it is a flying prop, it will also increase the accuracy. It seems that he can affect the movement of objects in space through his will. For example, this high-precision compound bow originally had an effective range of 200 meters. But after the blessing of the supernatural power, the range has reached 400 meters. This level of accuracy is not much worse than ordinary sniper rifles. And when Zhang Yi shoots with a sniper rifle, the power will naturally be doubled. Bows and arrows are just props for practice. If they really fight, it is definitely more convenient to kill people with guns. But in the process of continuous practice, the ability to shoot accurately gave him a very big surprise. Since the ability can increase the accuracy and power of projectiles, he had an idea what would happen if this ability was applied to melee weapons or even his own body. As soon as this idea appeared, it instantly became uncontrollable. Zhang Yi began to experiment a little bit on himself. As a result, the result of the experiment gave him a big surprise. The first is accuracy, which has undoubtedly been improved. For example, when he uses a hunting knife to slash, he can accurately slash the erected steel hammer. And when wrapping himself with supernatural powers, the air resistance he receives will be greatly reduced. Personal speed can reach twice the usual. A famous admiral once said, "Speed is power." Although the physical strength of the individual has not been improved, but the speed is doubled, and the destructive power caused is also doubled. Moreover, the speed is faster, the ability to evade is stronger, and the escape is much faster. Although my abilities seem relatively simple in function, they have unlimited potential for development. Zhang Yi liked his abilities more and more. He even felt that he had only dug out the tip of the iceberg, and there were more abilities that had not been fully developed. How powerful would he be if he could completely master the abilities he possessed? He didn't dare to imagine it himself. When Zhang Yi's heng was happy, his stomach suddenly let out a growl. He rubbed his stomach, and an uncontrollable hunger came over him. Zhang Yi took out 2 chocolate bars from the different space and stuffed them into his mouth. Although the newly developed abilities are amazing, the consumption is also huge. Power comes from cells, and he doesn't know how to photosynthesize, so he can only get power through food. So to use this ability, you have to eat more food to supplement it. Zhang Yi stuffed the high-calorie chocolate bar into his mouth with a click. He said while eating, "Judging from my situation, even aliens need to eat to replenish their strength." In other words, no matter how awesome we are, we don't have enough to eat, and we don't have the prerequisites for using abilities. He suddenly laughed. I didn't expect that in the end. The decisive factor for whether a foreigner is strong or not is the amount of food. He glanced at the huge sports field and narrowed his eyes steadily. In this case, am I invincible? At least it is right to fight a war of attrition. In the recent period, people who are still alive in Qianhe City have received a lot of news about the theft of the former Walmart South China warehouse without exception. These messages can be described as indiscriminate bombardment, and hundreds of messages were received in just 2 days. Most people feel inexplicable, don't know where these text messages come from, and what does it mean. but some caring people have noticed the subtlety of the matter. After all, those platforms that create spam text messages have all died out, and there are very few people who have the ability to spread the news on a large scale. At such a time, the 5 words of Walmart warehouse have a strong temptation. After all, when the incident happened, there was an uproar in Cheyenne City. It is said that the value of the lost materials is as high as tens of billions. If you can find that batch of supplies, you can survive in this end of the world very comfortably. Many people have such a consensus in their hearts. Chapter 187 Zishan Base. The news spread in a large area was noticed by some caring people. They have a keen sense that these news are deliberately concealing something. But there was no way for them to confirm the hundreds of messages one by one, so most people could only sigh. However, some people also obtained some useful intelligence by analyzing these data 52 kilometers west of Yangmana. It belongs to Zishan district. The name of Zishan district comes from a mountain range here. Since the 60s, Cheyenne City officials have begun to build shelters in various places. The original purpose was for air defense and even H attack. According to relevant data, there are now a total of 356 shelters in Cheyenne City. But most of the shelters are just simple air raid shelters and underground emergency shelters. There is not a lot of food in it, and the construction of the shelter is relatively simple. These are for ordinary city dwellers. If there are ordinary shelters, then there will naturally be military shelters, as well as special shelters reserved for official high-level figures. In these places, both the security level and the supply of supplies far exceed ordinary shelters. There is such a refuge 200 meters underground in Zishan. Although the entire western mountain has been covered with snow, there are still a large number of people living underground at this time. This underground institution is extraordinarily huge, with a huge space inside that can accommodate tens of thousands of people. It can be called a magnificent underground city. The whole body is made of the strongest alloy, like an underground space fortress. At this time, in the office of the leader of the Zishan organization, behind the mahogany desk, a middle-aged man in a grey tunic with combed back hair was looking at the documents in his hand. There was a cup of hot tea in his hand, and the temperature in the room was pleasant without feeling cold at all. The layout of the entire room is also antique. Even the shelves, where the books are placed, have a history of hundreds of years. He is a former senior official of Cheyenne City and now the leader of the Zishan organization, Chen Xinian. Chen Xinian flipped through the files in his hands, occasionally looking at the computer screen on the table. Is the energy problem of the base still difficult to solve? The power supply allows the people in the Fourth Life warehouse to generate electricity. But if a large amount of fossil fuels cannot be obtained, the travel of the troops can still only be done by walking and dog sledding. And just relying on human power to generate electricity is far from being able to make up for the base's future power vacancies. Chen Xinian muttered to himself and soon thought of a way. He picked up the hero pen at hand and wrote his reply on the document. Increase the working hours of the Fourth Life chamber and you have to work 12 hours a day to get the nutrient solution. Also, cut them off from electricity for 6 hours every night. Let them spend less time on their phones and go to bed earlier so they don't cause unnecessary energy consumption. After signing, Chen Xinian put the documents at hand, where there was already a thick stack of documents. At this moment, his secretary Gerald knocked on the door and walked in, putting a report in front of him. Leader, we have already found out the results of the information we received before. Most of the information is released at Villa number 101, Yangmana, Lujiang district. However, there is a message in it, which is from the mobile phone of Lu Fengde, chairman of Xi'an Technology, and the address is at Villa 302, Yangmana. Upon hearing this, Chen Xinian took the report casually. Talk to me about Zhang Yi mentioned in this message. There were too many words in the report, and he was a little too lazy to read it. But when he heard Lu Fengde's name, he still took a serious look at the message. Gerao told Chen Xinian the information about Zhang Yi verbatim. When he learned that Zhang Yi had been living in Cheyenne City and was just a small manager in the Walmart warehouse, Chen Xinian's expression immediately became dull. It's just a small warehouse manager. It's impossible to be the mastermind of this matter. Even if there are any benefits, there won't be too many of them. probably because he was guarding himself and stealing during his tenure in the past and hid a lot of stolen supplies at home, which has supported him until now. Gerald nodded quickly and said with a smile, "What you said, leader, is true. I also think that it is impossible for a small supervisor to have such a great ability to evacuate the entire warehouse." Chen Xinian smiled slightly, with an expression of seeing through everything. All of this is Mida's conspiracy. They must have noticed something was wrong before the gamma rays arrived, so they returned the supplies first. But you still want to do something about supernatural events. It's just deceiving yourself. Gerald smiled and complimented. How would they know that your ridiculous behavior has long been seen through by you, the leader? So, do you still need to investigate this Zhang Yi? Chen Xinian tapped the table with his fingers, and after thinking for a while, he said, "Send some people over there to have a look after a while. We haven't searched the Lujiang area either. Maybe we can find some supplies." Gerald nodded. "Yes, I'll arrange a few people to investigate immediately." Chen Xinian didn't pay much attention to such trivial matters, but Gerald arranged for someone to go out to investigate and didn't mention it. Zujia Town. Zudong Village. The villagers here also receive those hundreds of messages. For those who have been blocked for a long time, these messages are no different from spam messages, and they don't take them seriously. On the contrary, it was because there were always news reminders, which made them scold their mothers angrily. There was only one person who took it seriously, and that was Zhu Chunlei, Zudongken's highest combat power, the ice and snow ability user. After the last battle with Zhang Yi, Zhu Chunlei explained to the people in the village how terrifying Zhang Yi's strength is. Although the people in the village were dissatisfied with the tragic death of the same clan, but out of fear of Zhang Yi, finally the patriarch Zhu Dongsheng stepped forward and chose to put the matter to rest. Life in Zudong village has returned to calm, and they continue to rely on the hoarded vegetables and grains, and go fishing on the ice to survive. At least they will not worry about food problems. But Zhu Chunlei, and not Aku, was hit hard by this. Shouldn't I be the chosen one, have top level abilities, and then conquer countless beauties? Why do I have to run away when I meet that person? This depression also came from the disappointment of the villagers towards him, which made him, a sensitive nerd, very uncomfortable. So when he received a lot of information and found words about young Mana, he had a vague feeling that this matter might have something to do with the mysterious person who scared him away that day. Will I get any useful information if I query through this information? As a dead house, Zhu Chunlei still has some knowledge about the application of computers. There is nothing else to do left and right. Even if you reward yourself, you can only reward yourself at most 5 or 6 times a day. He is a very temperate person. So in his spare time, Zhu Chunlei began to analyze the information. Chapter 188 Zhu Chunlei discovered the secret. I found it. Zhu Chunlei sat in front of the computer and said excitedly. He pushed his glasses, and his fat body couldn't help shaking from side to side. Zhang Yi is not proficient in computers, so he did not encrypt the information when sending it. It was not difficult for Zhu Chunlei to decipher his IP address, and soon he discovered that the hundreds of messages in the last 2 days all came from 2 IP addresses, and the vast majority of them originate from the same computer. Only one message is a separate IP address, and by following the clues, Zhang Yi's identity was easily found out. Zhang Yi, Walmart warehouse manager. Walmart warehouse. Zhu Chunlei's eyes flashed brightly, and he became even more excited. Walmart warehouse theft. Supplies worth tens of billions were evacuated overnight. I originally thought it was a farce of a thief shouting "Stop the thief," but now it seems that this man named Zhang Yi is very suspicious. Two-dimensional house has a very big brain hole. Zhu Chunlei stood up, his chubby body walked back and forth in the room. But after a few steps, he was tired, so he stuffed his fat buttocks into the chair again. Is it really possible that he emptied the entire Walmart warehouse? If there is such a thing as supernatural power, all the impossible things will become no longer bizarre. But to do this kind of thing, unless it is the ability of the space field, it is like a small droplet vacuum cleaner, which can hold a large number of objects. Zhu Chunlei felt as if he had grasped something. During the battle that day, my attack suddenly disappeared in front of him. But later, he actually released my attack again. This is not as simple as an ordinary rebound attack. It seems that you can control the time of the rebound attack as you like. It's as if my attack was received in another place and then released again. Zhu Chunlo's eyes became brighter and brighter. I see. He must be a space system capable person, and all the supplies lost in the Walmart warehouse are most likely in his hands. In this way, it is easy to understand that even he can own a luxury snowmobile that is rare in the South. Space Department. He actually has the ability of Space Department. Damn, I'm envious. Zhu Chunlo's chubby face kept shaking with excitement. After the excitement, he sat down on the chair with some disappointment. Compared with his ability, my Fubuki is obviously more than one level behind. Could it be that he is the protagonist and I am the villain? Zhu Chunlo thought of the countless games he had played before, and his back felt chills with fright. Yes, when you play games, don't you always have some small bosses? It looks more difficult to fight than ordinary, but in fact it is to give experience. My ability is completely restrained by him, and I can't beat him at all. The brain hole of the two stinging apes is not ordinary, but stinging apes can also be very smart. Zhu Chunlo realized the gap in strength between himself and Zhang Yi, and fearful thoughts arose in his heart. I will never fight against him in the future. It is best to make friends with him. By the way, not only me, but also the whole village must be warned not to provoke him in the future. Thinking that there are still many heroes who are not afraid of death in his village, Zhu Chunlo is terrified. That day, if Zhang Yi chased him up, he would surely die if his strength was exhausted. He was also lucky, blocking Zhang Yi's sight with ice and snow, so he was not killed by the sniper. Thinking of this, Zhu Chunlo became even more frightened. After all, good luck cannot always be on his side. In order to prevent the villagers from doing stupid things, Zhu Chunlo immediately walked out of his house and then found Zhu Dongsheng, the village head of Zudong village, who was also the patriarch of their Zhu family. Seeing Zhu Chunlo approaching, Zhu Dongsheng had a kind smile on his face. Chunlo, it's rare for you to get out of the house once. You were at home before. If your mother hadn't asked you to go downstairs for a stroll, you probably wouldn't even be able to recognize the way. Zhu Chunlo panted and said to Zhu Dongsheng, "Third grandpa, something serious happened. I have to tell you about this." Zhu Dongsheng stroked his beard, smiled and said, "Oh, what's the big deal?" If in the past, Zhu Chunlo's words were in his ears, they would go in the left ear and out the right ear. A Notaku who only knows how to stay at home and rely on the house to collect rent for food cannot be respected by the villagers. But now, Zhu Chunlo has supernatural powers and is the strongest force in Zudongkan. Zhu Dongsheng still has to give him some face. Zhu Chunlo immediately told Zhu Dongsheng what he found out. "Third grandfather, this Zhang Yi is very powerful. His ability can also restrain me, so let's not have conflicts with him. Zudong village and Young Manor are separated by a river. You'd better tell the big guys in the village to stay away from that place in the future. It's best to change places when fishing." Zhu Chunlo kindly reminded Zhu Dongsheng, but when Zhu Dongsheng heard these words, he was attracted by another news. He stared at Zhu Chunlo with a Philistine and cunning gleam in his eyes. "You mean, he was actually responsible for the theft of the Walmart warehouse that made a lot of noise at the time? And the lost supplies worth tens of billions of dollars are also in his hands?" Zhu Chunlo didn't have any scheming and was anxious at this moment, so he nodded and said, "According to my analysis, this result is the most likely. Unless you are an ability user of the Space Department, it is impossible to empty a huge warehouse in a short time." With Zhu Chunlo's confirmation, the light in Zhu Dongsheng's eyes became brighter. He stroked his beard, bowed his head, and said to himself, "If these supplies can be used by our people in Zudong village, how many years will it take to use them up?" When Zhu Chunlo heard this, he realized something was wrong. He was startled. "Third grandpa, don't dare to think of him." Zhu Dongsheng glanced at him and said with some dissatisfaction, "Chunlo, you are good at everything, but you are too timid. Our Zudong village has hundreds of families, including the entire Zujia town. There are thousands of families. Could it be that? Do you think that with so many of us, we can't help him alone?" Zhu Chunlo didn't know how to refute for a while. But I can feel that person is very dangerous." Zhu Dongsheng sneered disdainfully and said, he scared you out of your guts. When I was young, several nearby villages fought with weapons, and people's brains were beaten to pieces. Why don't you drag some dead people back? At that time, what was the fight for? Sometimes it was for water, sometimes it was for land. Sometimes it was just because people from two villages had a quarrel, and they fought. He narrowed his eyes, as if he still had some memories of those years. Now for the survival of the entire Zhudong village, our surname Zhu is not afraid of risking our lives. Chapter 189. Seeing Zhu Dongsheng's firm expression, Zhu Chunlei felt extremely regretful in his heart. He didn't expect that his good intentions would lead to such a result. Third grandpa, that person has a gun in his hand. And he also has supernatural powers. So many people will definitely die if you go to him rashly. We have food in stock now, and we can survive. Is it really worth it? Zhu Dongsheng took a deep breath and reprimanded coldly. What do you know? It's so cold that we can't grow any food crops. We are just reaping what we did in the past. But what to do when the food is gone? Our Zhu family will have to carry on the family line in the future. How can we dare to have children without food? Zhu Dongsheng raised his head and looked at the sky helplessly. It's not like I haven't experienced the year of catastrophe. When people reach this kind of time, they can only take care of the people around them. To rob and kill, it's all for survival and the reproduction of the family. Zhu Chunlei wanted to say something, but the third grandfather glared at him directly. Okay, don't talk anymore. When the time comes, you just need to obey my orders. As the best person in the Zhu family's genes, I will arrange for you to have a few women to give birth to your children. And you can choose whatever you want first. Zhu Chunlei's scalp was numb. Such an ending was not what he wanted. Thinking of Zhang Yi's ability, he was also terrified. Zhu Chunlei is very afraid of death. He is timid and cowardly, but what's wrong with that? If he died, he would no longer be able to reward himself harshly to those two-dimensional idols in the hard drive. His Akizuki Eri, Manika Acacia, Kasagano Yuu, Najizuka Hiruka, Shirairin, Aoi Nazuki, Hagariha, Makiwarika, will never see you again. No, he absolutely does not allow such a world to exist. Fatty Zhu clenched his fists, his body trembling slightly. Seeing his strange appearance, Zhu Dongsheng asked curiously, are you holding back your urine? Go find a place to go to the bathroom, and be careful that your bladder is broken. Not like this. Zhu Chunlei suddenly called out. I won't fight that person. I can't beat him. Zhu Chunlei's last words were almost crying. He was terrified of death. Zhu Dongsheng was stunned for a moment, and then said angrily, Zhu Chunlei, are you still from our Zhu family? You are actually a deserter at this time. Zhu Chunlei gritted his teeth, enduring the fear of the clan elders in his heart. I can't beat him. My ability has also been restrained by him, so it doesn't matter if I go or not. Third grandpa, I don't want to die. Zhu Dongsheng stared at him coldly, and after a while, he gave a cold snort of disdain. Useless things. There are so many talents in our Zhu family, we can get things done without you alone. Get lost. As if being pardoned, Zhu Chunlei turned around and ran back, fearing that Zhu Dongsheng would change his mind if he ran too late. Zhu Dongsheng looked at the fat man's back and exhaled a long puff of white smoke. This kid is good at everything, but he is too timid. Forget it. It's fine if he doesn't go. Keep his genes. Maybe he can pass on his abilities to the next generation. Zhu Dongsheng straightened his chest. Our Zhu family can be considered a big family with a thriving population. Can't we get things done without him? He immediately called the representatives of several branches of the Zhu family over and told them the good news. When the big guys heard that there was such a large pool nearby, their excited faces seemed to blossom. So that kid is called Zhang Yi. A middle-aged man had a ferocious face. He killed my son, and I have long wanted to seek revenge from him. This time, we will settle the old and new grudges together. A tall middle-aged man next to him said, if he really has so many supplies in his hand, it will not be a problem for our Zhu family to use them for decades. Thank God for caring for our Zhu family. At this time, he sent such a great gift. Some people put their hands together and thanked God. The big guy couldn't wait to go back, gathered the clansmen, and went to Zhang Yi to borrow food. When the time comes, let Chun-Li go first. His ice and snow will rush, and ordinary doors and glass won't be able to block it at all. Someone suggested. Yes, we have Chun-Li as an important force, but it will be of great use. Zhu Dongsheng heard the words, but said with a straight face, this time, Chun-Li won't go. After hearing the words of the several branches below, they immediately discussed with surprise on their faces. What? Chun-Li won't go? This isn't that good. That's right, he alone can play the role of hundreds of people. If he doesn't go, let's not talk about anything else. That Zhang Yi has a gun in his hand, and he will kill many of us. Third Master, you are the patriarch. You can't indulge him in this matter. Zhu Dongsheng tapped his crutch impatiently. Okay. Shut me up. Chun-Li suffered internal injuries when he fought Zhang Yi last time. That Zhang Yi is a master with profound internal skills. Don't look at Chun-Li's appearance as nothing. In fact, he was seriously injured. He's going to have to recuperate at home for a while. So we won't take him in this operation. Although Zhu Dongsheng looked down on Zhu Chunlu's cowardice, after all, he was a descendant of his lineage, so he had to take sides. Although the others still complained, the face of the patriarch had to be given. Considering that there are hundreds of men in the whole family, it is definitely not a problem to deal with a mere Zhang Yi, so everyone stopped talking. Zhu Dongsheng's eyes became serious. Okay, now everyone go back immediately and gather the clansmen around you. It's the same as fighting with the next villages before. Boys over the age of 16 will pick up guys for me. Take all the shotguns and gunpowder hidden in the house. The other party is also a stranger after all. We must not be careless. We must win this battle with the lowest casualties. It has been more than a month since the end of the world, and Zhu Dongsheng has experienced many battles so far, and has formed a certain degree of discipline. After Zhu Dongsheng made the arrangements, the leaders of each branch immediately went back to the convener. After some mobilization, hundreds of men in the village gathered in the square at the entrance of the village with weapons in hand. A dense group of people. Everyone will not be short of food on weekdays, so they are very energetic. That night, the village head Zhu Dongsheng gave an order, and under the leadership of the speakers of each branch, everyone divided into 6 teams and started to cross the Lujiang River and head towards Yunk Manor. They put a bit on the dog's mouth, for fear that the barking of the dog would alarm Zhang Yi. Then used dogs to pull the sled to send the villagers there. After crossing the river, the dogs and sled remained on the bank. After all, the dogs they raised are very precious. Last time Zhang Yi took care of 8 of them at once, which made the villagers feel distressed. The rest, but one is reluctant to let them die. At this time, in Yunk Manor, Villa 101 in the center was brightly lit, which was particularly obvious. Zhang Yi, Zhao Ke, and Yang Mi sat at the table, enjoying the food on the table. Candlesticks were placed on the table, and a bottle of 83 Lafite was placed on the red silk tablecloth. The meals were all French meals that Zhang Yi had ordered from the Michelin restaurant. Regardless of the possible dangers from the outside world, the life in this villa can be described as a paradise. You don't need to be bothered by the pressure of life, just enjoy it to your heart's content. Even Yang Mi, who fantasized about leaving one day at the beginning, was gradually immersed in this beauty and couldn't extricate herself. At this moment, a faint scream came from a distance, breaking the tranquility. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 The Power of the Trap. Zhang Yi's intuition was the keenest, and after noticing the voice, he immediately looked out the window. At this time, the outside world was pitch black, and the distant scenery could not be seen clearly. He got up silently and said, I'll go over and have a look. You guys eat first. Zhao Ke and Yang Mi watched Zhang Yi get up and looked out of the window curiously, but in the dark night, they couldn't see anything clearly. Zhang Yi slowly walked up to the second floor. The lights on the second floor were not turned on, so it was still pitch black from the outside. He stood in front of the window, took out the infrared telescope, and looked around the villa. Under the night, a large red shadow slowly surrounded the villa. A smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. It came faster than expected. He had already guessed the identities of these people. Only in the past 2 days. Only the residents of Zujia town can get there so quickly. Only these short-sighted people would rush over without any investigation. Since you like to die, then come. A killing intent flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. Anyone who disturbs his peaceful life will die. What's more, a large number of their troops came here, definitely not to say hello, but to snatch supplies. Ordinary people can't threaten the safety of the shelter. I'll just see if the strangers from their village have come. If he comes, I will take this opportunity to kill him too. Zhang Yi put away the telescope in his hand and silently took out the tactical eyepiece and a large sniper from the different space. The gun muzzles rest on the windows, and the thick nanoscale bulletproof glass is thicker than the walls. He was waiting for the right opportunity, opened the window, and then killed that alien. As for other miscellaneous fish, let those people help first, and test how powerful the trap you set up is. At this time, the first team from Zudong village had already arrived at Yonk Manor, reaching the edge of the trap zone set up by Zhang Yi. After coming here, they looked at the lighted villa in the distance, feeling like they were dreaming. In the last days, they relied on Zhu Chunlu's ability to build an ice and snow village, and relied on the fishing skills passed down from the old and the food reserves to survive until now. But they couldn't imagine that someone could still enjoy such a luxurious life. A villager couldn't bear it, and immediately walked forward. But when his foot collapsed, he suddenly felt a piercing pain. What? He let out a cry of pain, and fell to the ground. Everyone looked quickly, and found that he was stepping on a wooden plank under his feet, and the wooden plank was densely packed with sharp steel nails, 7 or 8 centimeters penetrated from the feet. The face of the villager with injured foot turned pale in an instant. Under such a severe cold temperature, with such serious injuries, it is very likely that his life will be lost. Bring him back quickly. The leader of this team hastily ordered someone to carry him away. A group of people cursed Zhang Yi angrily. Scumbag, you actually set a trap in the snow. Go and inform the others. Be careful on the road. There are nail boards on the ground. Don't get caught again. The leader of this team immediately sent someone to notify everyone. Zhu Dongsheng was in charge of commanding from the rear. After hearing the news, he immediately issued an order. Proceed carefully. That man is already prepared. But this kind of pediatric trap is not difficult for us. Let everyone advance slowly, use sticks and branches to explore the way first, and clear those traps. The 6 teams looked from 6 different directions, intending to attack Zhang Yi's shelter in an encircling situation. After Zhu Dongsheng's order was issued to each team, they immediately collected materials on the spot. Some brought sticks, others shovels, and others chopped down branches from roadsides to clear traps buried in snowdrifts. All of this was seen by Zhang Yi. Do you really think you're smart? Heh. It's time for the second wave of traps to be launched. Zhang Yi's tone was mocking. They knew that they could clear the trap in this way, so Zhang Yi couldn't think of it. The first group of people acted as sappers, and 5 or 6 people armed with tools went forward to clear the traps. Sure enough, a few pegboards were cleared from the snow by them. Everyone was overjoyed. It worked. Go ahead and throw all these pegboards to the curb. The villagers responsible for cleaning the traps were also encouraged to speed up the cleaning. At this moment, the stick in one's hand felt a stagflation resistance, as if it touched the rope. The steel wire buried in the snow was triggered. Boom. The steel wire tore off the tab on the grenade, and there was a violent explosion. The flames soared into the sky, and 5 or 6 people nearby were blown out on the spot. There's a bomb. The villagers behind him backed away in fright. But before they could take 2 steps, they felt a sharp pain in their chest and face. When he took off his clothes, he saw that his chest was already covered with blood. Although they escaped the explosion, they did not escape the attack of shrapnel. What? The screams rang out, and the movement here also made the other teams feel uneasy. Boom. Another person accidentally punished the grenade trap, and was killed and injured more than a dozen on the spot. There's a bomb. We can't go any further. Immediately, many people were so frightened that they scrambled and ran back. However, there are still many nail boards buried in the snow, which have not been completely cleaned up. The panicked people turned around and ran, losing their way in the darkness. Just like that, their feet stepped on the nail plate, and the sharp nail plate pierced through the top of their feet. Some people fell to the ground after stepping on the nail board, and then got another piece in the butt. The nail plate is stuck into the buttocks, as if it is nailed to the wall. It is very strong. Others were even more miserable, with their faces on the ground and nails firmly dug into their foreheads. What? The man wanted to die in pain. He couldn't see anything, because his eyes were also stabbed. In desperation, he grabbed the nail plate with both hands, desperately trying to pull it out. Puff! The screw grabbed the flesh and ripped off the face directly, and there was a blood-red eyeball staring at it. Where have people in Zudong village seen such a scene? Although they had fought with the neighboring village, the most they did was move bricks and hose to their foreheads. However, the purpose of fighting with weapons is to subdue the opponent and win supplies and land. And Zhang Yi's trap was purely to kill them from the very beginning. There was wailing everywhere, and the blood was extremely bloody. Crowded in panic, they could have retreated in an orderly manner to reduce casualties, but now they caused collateral damage instead. Many people who should not have been injured were accidentally injured by their own people. All of a sudden, more than a dozen people from Zudong village died on the spot, and more than 20 people were injured. And they just came to the periphery of the 101 villas in Young Manor, and they just took the first step. Chapter 191. The villagers in Zudong village suffered heavy casualties, and the ground was full of wounded. Although they didn't die, the pain was worse than death. In particular, some people's feet have been pierced, trying to pull out the nail plates to stop the bleeding. But there are not only smooth nails on it, but also threaded screws. With a little force, that thing is more powerful than a barb, and it directly scrapes the flesh. Why is it happening like that? Everyone is very incomprehensible. When they fought around Zujia town before, they were in every position, and they had never been in such a state of embarrassment. Finally, someone noticed the problem. Chun-Li didn't come. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly realized. Zhu Chun-Li, who can manipulate ice and snow, is a humanoid cheat when fighting in this kind of ice and snow. It was never them who were strong, but because there was a Zhu Chun-Li in their village. The leaders of several teams sullenly asked all the villagers to retreat temporarily. They found Zhu Dongsheng, village chief. Call Chun-Li over here. There is still more than 100 meters away. I don't know how many traps are under the snow. You must call Chun-Li over. Every word you say, everyone hopes that Zhu Chun-Li can come to solve the current problem. Zhu Dongsheng's expression was a little ugly. At the beginning, when Zhu Chun-Li begged him not to attack Zhang Yi's shelter, he scolded Zhu Chun-Li for being cowardly and put down his harsh words. Without Zhu Chun-Li, Zhu Dongsheng could still take down the shelter. But now, the first wave of attacks left the villagers at a loss. The second floor of the shelter. Holding the big sniper in his hand, Zhang Yi was also waiting silently. Why don't the aliens of the Ice and Snow Department take action? There were too many people, and he didn't know which one was the alien, but if the other party made a move, he could quickly lock the target. The straight line distance from here to the group of villagers is less than 200 meters. Even if that person is afraid of his ability and shoots at a longer distance, as long as it does not exceed 2000 meters, Zhang Yi can still snipe him. Come here quickly, Zhang Yi said lightly. On Zhu Dongsheng's side, facing the pressure from the villagers, he couldn't hold back his old face. Let him beg Zhu Chun-Li at this time. Grandpa going to beg grandson. He gritted his teeth. He couldn't do it. Zhu Dongsheng scolded. What are you afraid of? Without Chun-Li, we can't do anything. This kid is really vicious, and he has set up so many traps around the house. He, who didn't go up and down the mountain when we were young, it's no big deal. Don't worry, big guy. Let's move forward step by step and remove all the traps for him. The other person is here. If he can run away, the monk can't run away from the temple. I'm afraid he will do something. For his own sake, Zhu Dongsheng chose to confront Zhang Yi head on instead of asking Zhu Chun-Li for help. The villagers looked at each other in blank dismay, feeling uneasy. Zhu Dongsheng handed his binoculars to the people around him. Take a closer look inside that villa yourself and see what's inside. Hearing this, a middle-aged man curiously took the binoculars and looked towards the villa. The first floor is still brightly lit, and through the window, you can clearly see the scene inside. He looked over the window and saw everything was so gorgeous under the warm light. All kinds of high-end and luxurious furniture. 2 fairy-like beautiful women sat at the dining table, looking out the window while eating. On the dining table, there are all steaming and delicious dishes. The middle-aged man couldn't help swallowing several mouthfuls of saliva. I don't know if it's because of the delicious food, or those 2 beauties who are so beautiful that his eyes are hot. Seeing this, the others also grabbed the binoculars and looked over there. Everyone saw what they wanted in that villa. Food, a warm and cozy house, and 2 top beauties. If you can live in such an environment, then who cares about the end of the world? This is clearly heaven. Zhu Dongsheng pointed to the villa less than 200 meters away from them. As long as you can break through, you can get everything there. The people in Zudong village have already begun to feel excited. They all came. Let them run back in desperation after dozens of people were killed or injured, and they also felt unwilling. But there are traps and bombs in the snow. How do we break this situation? Still, cautious doubts were raised. Another person said, let's call Chun-Li over. With his ability, he only needs to take a little action to clean up the snow. Any trap can be exposed. The people around nodded, expressing their agreement with his idea. Zhu Dongsheng's face slowly turned red. As the elder of the Zhu family, the head of a village and the head of a clan, he was very concerned about his face. It is absolutely impossible for him to bow his head and ask Zhu Chun-Li to come over. HMPH, they're all a bunch of worthless things. It seems that except for Chun-Li, everyone else in our village is a coward and a soft bone. Anyone who is afraid, just go back. Save our Zhu family's face. Zhu Dongsheng's scolding immediately made the Zhu family men in front of them blush, ashamed and angry. Third grandpa, we are not cowards. What's there to be afraid of? I'm going to arrest that Zhang Yi right now, and let you see it. The blood of the young men of the village was hot, and they picked up their tools, and turned their heads to clear the traps. Seeing this scene, Zhu Dongsheng nodded in satisfaction. That's right. In fact, there is nothing to be afraid of, just be careful. This kind of pediatric trap is nothing at all. The villagers of Zudong village soon learned to be smart after the first round of suffering. They were worried that there were such traps in the snow, so they began to dig ice blocks from a distance and throw them forward. In this way, even if there are trigger traps, they will be detonated, and a safe path can be paved. The second floor of the shelter. Zhang Yi watched all their actions with his own eyes, and secretly noticed them in his heart. The wisdom of mortals is really powerful. This method can disable the traps in most areas. However, high-tech equipment cannot be overcome by such pediatric methods. The villagers of Zudong village moved forward one after another. By throwing ice blocks to pave the road, they cleared some of the traps again. Even the grenade traps were detonated in 4 or 5 places. This boosted their confidence. A smug smile appeared on Zhu Dongsheng's face. Okay, let's keep going. The shotgun team will keep up, and Zhang Yi must have spotted us. If he dares to shoot, he will shoot back immediately. Zhu Dongping, Zhu Dongsheng's cousin, is an old hunter in the village. He holds an old shotgun in his hand and grinned. Don't worry, as long as he dares to show his head, I will punch a hole in his head. Chapter 192. Your people are flying in the sky. The people of Zudong village moved forward while dismantling the trap. Paving the road with thick blocks of ice and snow covered the underlying nail board. After all, the trap set by Zhang Yi is simpler, and after being exposed, it is indeed easy to be guarded against. He kept this question in mind and planned to strengthen it next time. There are 2 roads to 101 from the outside of Young Manor, one from the south gate, and one from the west gate. The people in Zudong village all came from the south, so they all gathered on the south road at this time. Zhang Yi didn't take them to heart, because these villagers can't imagine how strong a shelter can be. They probably thought that this shelter was also a reinforced concrete structure, and they could break through it easily. This ignorance will cost them their lives. Zhang Yi raised his head, still looking into the distance through the scope of the sniper rifle. What he really cared about was not these villagers, but the ice and snow alien he met last time. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't see any changes in the wind and snow. Is he waiting for me to show up? Or hasn't he come at all? Zhang Yi frowned slightly, a little surprised in his heart. Zujia town, as can be heard from the name of the town, a considerable number of people in the town have the surname Zhu and belong to the same clan. Most of the people in the town are related. And when these villagers came to attack, the alien behind him had no reason to watch them die in vain, instead of using their abilities to help them clear the snow and traps. Did you really come here? Did you get scratched by my stray bullet last time? Thinking of this, Zhang Yi frowned, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It's best to die. At this time, on the south road facing the shelter, hundreds of villagers from Zudong village were slowly advancing. As the traps were dismantled by them, their forward speed was also slightly accelerated. After all, after getting close, they could already clearly see the luxury inside the villa. In the past, only the top rich and powerful men were eligible to live in Young Manor, and the cheapest set was sold for over million yuan. In each house, the decoration and furniture used are top-notch. Even the curtains on the windows are made of fine silk. Not to mention that at this time, there were two beautiful women with curvy figures and beautiful looks standing at the window, watching them. Cool. A young man's breathing became heavy, and his steps became hurried. Yang Mi at the window looked at the densely packed crowd. Her nervous heart was pounding, and she subconsciously took a few steps back. But beside her, Zhao Ken just looked at those people in front of him calmly, and sighed softly. How many people will die this time? Yang Mi hugged her plump chest with both hands. Her face turned pale. Zhang Yi. What did Zhang Yi do? There are so many people. Will they attack? If those men broke in, she couldn't imagine how she would be treated. No matter what Zhang Yi said, he treated her more gently and never forced her to do anything. But these villagers gave her the feeling of a real refugee in the last days. The eyes full of greed, lust, tyranny, and excitement made people shudder. Zhao Ke looked at the terrified Yang Mi and smiled triumphantly. She raised her delicate chin, revealing a swan-like slender and fair neck. Is that why you're afraid? With your courage, how can you follow Zhang Yi's side in the future? Zhao Ke and Zhang Yi had stayed in the Yulu community for a month, experienced countless intrigues and betrayals, and even witnessed the mountain of corpses Zhang Yi killed with his own eyes. Everything in front of me is just a small scene. She knew that Zhang Yi must have thought about how these people would die. Follow a man who is extremely cautious, and you will really have a full sense of security in the last days. Even standing in front of the window at this moment, watching so many people slowly approaching, she didn't feel a trace of fear. On the second floor, Zhang Yi in the dark is like an old hunter, waiting for the prey to enter his trap. The crowd approached less than 50 meters from the villa. Zhang Yi confirmed the population density and first turned on the active noise reduction function of the entire villa. The sound of the outside world seemed to disappear for an instant, and even the sound of the wind could not be heard. Then, he decisively pressed the electronic button in his hand. A huge roar sounded in the middle of the road outside the villa. Even if the noise reduction function is turned on, the explosion can still be heard clearly. In front of him, a soaring flame burst from the depths of the snowfield, illuminating the neighborhood in the dark night as bright as day. A large group of colorful fireworks flew into the air. Zhang Yi squinted his eyes, and when he looked carefully, he realized that it was not fireworks, but a broken body wrapped in clothes. Even if the villa's glass is specially made, detonating a high-yield mine at such a short distance will still make people dazzled. Zhang Yi couldn't hear the crying outside, but he could clearly see the tragedy. The road in the community and the garden in front of the gate were about 10 meters wide, but the explosion forcefully blasted a pothole 4 to 5 meters deep in the ground. Even the concrete floor under the snow layer was blown up. The location where the landmine exploded was just in the middle of Zudong village's team, and the bodies of dozens of people were directly separated by the explosion. The shockwave caused by the explosion also sent others flying. These people fell in the snow, and there were a lot of traps around them that they hadn't cleared. Nail boards, traps, these are the most primitive traps, but at this time they have caused great harm to the people of Zudong village. Zhang Yi watched them open their mouths wide, holding his feet in pain, and covering his chest or face. Those parts were deeply pierced by nail boards. Some people's faces were just a piece of wood, and the steel nails and screws did not know how deep they were. Some people were caught in the traps, struggling desperately to break free. Their feet were directly torn off. Zhang Yi couldn't bear to watch the tragedy. He shook his head and sighed helplessly. It would be great if there were more landmines of this kind, so that all these people could be killed and save them from suffering. Outside the villa, there were screams, as shrill as a cemetery where crows gathered. Seeing this situation, Zhao Ke and Yang Mi couldn't help but take a few steps back, because through the glass, they saw some people rushing towards them by mistake, begging them for help with hideous faces. "Save me, save me." A villager with only half of his body struggled to crawl over, fixed his eyes on Yang Mi, and begged him for help. As for his lower body, it was already horrible. The hairs all over Yang Mi's body stood on end. A surge of energy suddenly surged up in her throat, and then she bent down and vomited wildly with a sound of wow. Even Zhao Ke, who was used to seeing big scenes, turned slightly pale and turned his head sideways. Only Zhang Yi remained indifferent after seeing this scene. After all, he has experienced too much life and death. As the saying goes, life and death are bearish. If you don't accept it, do it. What else is there to be afraid of? Chapter 193, The Hunter and the Cold Arrow. The sudden violent explosion took away more than 30 lives in an instant, and the deaths caused by chaos are even more difficult to count. The wailing sounds of the villagers in Zudong village echoed in the sky above Young Manor. The tragic scene made the faces of the living pale with fright, and some young people were even frightened crazy, and turned their heads, and ran back screaming. The people who were still alive were also frightened by the violent explosion. Some fell into temporary blindness, some were stunned by the explosion, and some became deaf with their eardrums shattered. Zhu Dansheng, who was directing the overall situation in the rear, and several other senior members of the Zhu family had dull expressions, without any expression on their faces, and even their eyes lost their luster. They couldn't accept the reality in front of them, and their brains were in a state of shutdown due to the excessive impact. A mentally disturbed young man ran over, hugged Zhu Dongsheng's thigh, and shouted like crazy, "Dead. They are all dead. They were all blown to pieces. Their arms and brains were all shattered. Third grandpa, they are all dead. They are all dead." Even though there was a problem with his mental state, he still instinctively came to find the elders of the family, as if hoping to find a glimmer of hope from him. But after Zhu Dongsheng heard his words, his brain started slowly, but his legs gave way and he fell to the ground directly. Looking at the tragedy in front of him, his breathing became short of breath, and even in the extremely cold temperature, cold sweat began to break out on his forehead. Soon his face was covered with ice particles. "Ghost, he's not a human, he's a ghost. We just wanted his supplies, but he killed dozens of us." Zhu Dongsheng's eyes flustered, and he became incoherent. This old man in his 70s couldn't stand such a blow, and he was already a little bit broken. So many people died. He, as the patriarch, was also the initiator of this action, and he was to blame. The people in Zudong village originally expected their elders to come up with an idea, but they didn't expect that the village chief was out of his mind. They are like headless chickens. They can only scream and run around without anyone directing them. And the more you run around, the more people will die in the trap. Looking at the scene in front of him on the second floor, Zhang Yi already confirmed in his heart that the alien from the ice and snow department did not come. He put away the sniper rifle in his hand. At a distance of 200 meters, there is no need to waste bullets at all. A white light flashed in his right hand, and an exquisite composite bow appeared in his hand, along with 2 bags of bows and arrows. Zhang Yi hung the quiver on his waist, held a bow in his left hand, and gave instructions to the intelligence system of the shelter. "Open the window in front of me." As soon as the words fell, the huge bulletproof glass window in front of him slowly lifted up. The windows are in the form of opening to the outside. As soon as the window was opened, the wind and snow poured in immediately. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes and quickly drew 3 arrows with his right hand and put them on the bowstring. He doesn't need to do too much aiming due to the assistability of accurate shooting. So in the past half month, he has been able to shoot 3 arrows at the same time. Standing in the darkness, Zhang Yi aimed at the villagers of Zudong village who hadn't fallen and started hunting without mercy. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 sharp arrowheads shot out through the air. with the blessing of supernatural powers. Even in the wind and snow, the trajectory of the arrows would not be affected. The 3 villagers from the East Village, who turned their heads and ran away, were shot in the middle of their chests, and they were shot all over the front and back. A modern compound bow that is extremely lethal in itself, coupled with the enhanced power of precise shooting, can even penetrate wild boars. Not to mention these villagers in down jackets. The night was pitch black, and the second floor, where Zhang Yi was located, was even darker. After the 3 arrows shot out, there was no sound, and the people below were in a state of panic. No one noticed that they were being hunted down. Zhang Yi did not panic, continued to take out the bow and arrow, and shot in an orderly manner. Since he mastered the new skill, it was the first time for him to experiment in actual combat. And by shooting and killing living bodies, his understanding of this skill has become more profound. Everyone is within his range, and those who plan to escape are his priority targets. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Arrow relentlessly harvested one life after another, and the number of Zudong village villagers who were shot dead by him soon came to 26 people. At this time, the people around realized that something was wrong. There are hunters. A villager shouted loudly. The villagers with shotguns hurriedly raised their guns to aim. But Zhang Yi used a bow and arrow. There was no gunfire, and there was no light to reveal his position. In the dark night, Zhang Yi has infrared tactical eyepieces, but they can only observe with the naked eye. This kind of duel is completely crushing across the age level. When Zhang Yi saw someone raising a gun, he mercilessly killed those gunmen first. At the same time, he opened the gate of the dimension in front of him, and all objects shot from outside will be swallowed by the different space. As a top-level defense method, the different space is as strong as a bug. Several old hunters fired only one shot, and their heads were pierced by arrowheads. When they died, their eyes were still wide open. They couldn't understand why the bow and arrow could shoot such a long distance. Seeing the villagers fall down one by one, many of them were his old brothers and nephews, Zhu Dongsheng and other elders in the village, regretted their guts turning green. Especially Zhu Dongsheng. He recalled Zhu Chunlu's words of persuasion back then. At that time, he didn't take Zhang Yi seriously at all. But now he realizes how arrogant and conceited he is. Zhu Dongsheng raised his hand and slapped his mouth hard. Damn me. I'm the Zhu family's sinner. He shouldn't have ignored Zhu Chunlu's words. No matter how bad it was, he might as well bring Zhu Chunlu here. For this face, he killed hundreds of Zhu Dongken's family. Zhang Yi puts his bow and arrows, and every time he shoots 3 arrows at once. This feeling of not needing to deliberately aim, but using abilities to assist design is too wonderful. It feels as refreshing as playing CS with a plugin, or Soldier 76 as a big player. Sure enough, in front of strangers, ordinary people have no power to resist. This is the difference in the world. Since you're here, stay here. Zhang Yi's voice was cold. He planned to kill everyone who came here today, leaving no one behind. But at this moment, the snowstorm in the sky suddenly became bigger. The snowstorm all over the sky blocked Zhang Yi's sight, and it was like a torrent between the shelter and the villagers of Zudong village. Zhang Yi put down the bow and arrow in his hand. A look of excitement flashed in his eyes. Why are you here now? The stranger in Zudong village really couldn't help but make a move. Zhang Yi immediately changed into a big sniper. In this level of blizzard, the power of the arrows was no longer enough. Still need a sniper rifle. Chapter 194 The Pursuit in the Ice and Snow. Zhu Chunlu finally came. It was the explosion on the other side of the river that attracted him. As a stranger, Zhu Chunlu understands the difference between strangers and ordinary people better than anyone in Zudong village. What's more, he had fought against Zhang Yi, and Zhang Yi's ability to restrain him was completely messed up. If Zhang Yi hadn't been afraid of an ambush in Zudongken and didn't dare to chase after him, he would have died that day. However, he couldn't just watch the whole village die there. The villagers of Zudong village also breathed a sigh of relief when they saw this familiar scene. They knew that Zhu Chunlu was here. At this time, Zhu Chunlu came from the river with great effort, and while controlling the ice and snow to block Zhang Yi's sight, he shouted at the villagers, "Go, go." The villagers woke up like a dream. This time the attack failed completely, and they suffered numerous casualties. Continue to fight. Who knows if the opponent has other means waiting for them? Everyone rushed to help the injured relatives, and some even struggled to carry the corpses of their family members who died in battle. As for some people who have been blown into parts, they had to pick up big pieces and take them back. In this way, there is no doubt that the speed is affected. Zhu Chunlei was very nervous. He was terribly afraid of death, but if all the villagers died here, he would live in guilt for the rest of his life. So he worked hard to maintain the snowstorm and bought time for the villagers to retreat. Because last time, he also used this method to escape in the shelter. Looking at the snowstorm covering the sky, Zhang Yi put away the sniper rifle in his hand. For his abilities, if the defense is 10,000, then the attack is at most 500, and most of them still rely on long-range firepower for output. With his sight blocked, his pointless shooting would only be a waste of bullets. However, since Zhang Yi knew that the opponent had ice and snow abilities, he thought about how to deal with him. Maintaining such a large-scale snowstorm consumes a huge amount of energy. And from here to the other side of the river, the straight line distance is more than 700 meters. I want to see how long you can last. Zhang Yi closed the window and let the ice and snow outside rage. He opened the different space and began to put on the equipment in an orderly manner. Bulletproof vests, bulletproof pants, bulletproof helmets, cold clothes, cut-resistant gloves, daggers, grenades, claw knives, pistols. Other things are placed in the different space because they are too heavy and they can be taken out for use at any time. After getting ready, Zhang Yi quickly went down the stairs. Glancing at Zhao Ke and Yang Mi, he left a sentence, "Wait for me at home." Then, regardless of their reactions, they opened the door and walked out of the shelter. Yang Mi had just vomited and she leaned weakly on the sofa. Looking at Zhang Yi, who is full of vigor and resoluteness, she can't help feeling a strong sense of security in her heart. An attack made her feel her own weakness and powerlessness, and also made her admire Zhang Yi's calmness and toughness. She couldn't help asking herself, it is indeed a kind of luck to be by such a man's side, but what can I do for him? The more she thought about it, the more guilty she felt. It seems that apart from working harder in bed, it is really difficult for her to make much contribution in other aspects. Zhang Yi walked out of the shelter, bypassed the south road, and chose to go out by the west road. After all, the south road is already in a mess, and the traps are also in chaos, so it is easy to accidentally hurt yourself when you go out now. He is not afraid that the other party will run away because he has a car. Zhang Yi took out the snowmobile, drove out of Young Manor from another road, and then detoured towards the river to pursue. Zhu Chunlei tried his best to maintain the scale of the wind and snow to obstruct Zhang Yi's sight. But after a long time, he found that the gunshots stopped and Zhang Yi didn't chase after him, so he was a little lucky at first. But soon, everyone heard the sound of the engine. Boom. The snowmobile came galloping on the road. Zhang Yi turned on the autopilot, and then with an assault rifle in his hand, he began to shoot at the retreating crowd. The bullets rushed out like a fire snake, harvesting 7 or 8 lives in one go. What? The villagers let out horrified cries. Chunlei, stop him. Someone asked Zhu Chunlei for help. When Zhang Yi heard this voice, he also carefully observed among the crowd. There was an abrupt figure who seemed a little out of place. A little fat. When everyone else was running away desperately, he faced Zhang Yi and raised his hands. You are the one. Zhang Yi threw the assault rifle to the co-pilot and set up a big sniper on the car door. Boom. There was a deafening gunshot, but at the same time a torrent of ice and snow rushed in front of him. The bullet wrapped in supernatural powers pierced through the ice and snow, and the bullet brushed past Zhu Chunlei's side less than centimeters away and shot hard into the ice. Zhu Chunlei's whole body was cold, and he was scared to death. After Zhang Yi's grasp of spatial abilities has improved, with the power of the sniper rifle, he can already penetrate his snowstorm. However, the angle of the bullet will still be affected and offset. Chunlei, let's go. A sledge rushed over, and the man on it stretched out his hand to Zhu Chunlei. They had already realized Zhang Yi's fearfulness. They did not dare to fight, and they all ran for their lives in a hurry. Zhu Chunlei stretched out his hand quickly, and the man dragged him onto the sledge. Zhang Yi parked the car by the river. Looking at the wide river in front of me, the thick ice surface may have been 5 or 6 meters deep after more than a month of extreme cold. Zhang Yi only hesitated for a second, then chose to turn around and drive towards the river. Chase. This is an excellent opportunity to kill the opponent's alien. This is not the first time they have caused trouble, and Zhang Yi has no reason to let them go. Boom. With the roar of the accelerator, the snowmobile drove onto the ice and chased after the group of sleds ahead. Dogs aren't as fast as snowmobiles. Although those sled dogs ran desperately to the other side of the river, it would not take long for Zhang Yi to catch up with them. While chasing forward, Zhang Yi shot to find Zhu Chunlu's loopholes. As long as this alien is killed, those villagers in Zudong village are just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. However, Zhu Chunlu also exploded with amazing strength in the desperate situation and kept the snowstorm lying between Zhang Yi and all of them. Zhu Chunlu is also very smart. He knows that this kind of attack cannot cause damage to Zhang Yi, so he chooses to block the line of sight with the largest range. As long as he couldn't aim, Zhang Yi's damage to them could be minimized. However, when fleeing, the crowd was extremely loose after all. Zhang Yi watched Zhu Chunlu cover himself tightly, so he simply turned his gun and started shooting those villagers. Boom. A huge roar resounded over the Lujiang River. With one shot, the 3 huddled people on the sledge were all pierced and fell off the ice in an instant. Chapter 195 Crushed Ice. Zhu Chunlu's ability can indeed have a visual impact on Zhang Yi's attack, but the range he can influence is not large enough. If he can protect himself, he cannot protect others. There are people fleeing in a hurry everywhere on the ice. Zhang Yi can kill anyone. Zhu Chunlu wanted to protect himself, so he killed the villagers of Zudong village. Anyway, they were the ones who made the first move, so no matter how many kills Zhang Yi made, he wouldn't feel anything. The military sniper, combined with Zhang Yi's supernatural power, produces extremely terrifying power. A single shot pierced the 3 of them directly, and the air was filled with bursting blood mist. Zhang Yi pulled the bolt, aimed and fired again, and the bodies of 2 people were penetrated again. There were 3 or 4 people crowded on each dog sled, and they were carrying the dead bodies of their relatives, so they couldn't run fast at all. Soon someone realized the problem and yelled, "Throw away all their corpses. Run." The villagers of Zudong village looked pained. What they brought back were the corpses of their own father and brother. Rural areas attach great importance to the concept of burial. Even if you die, you must bury your body in the ancestral grave, so that your soul can rest in peace, and at the same time protect future generations. However, the god of killing followed closely behind, and they had no other choice. Soon, they threw a pile of corpses onto the ice. Although this had a certain impact on Zhang Yi's progress, the impact was not significant. No matter how slow a car runs, it is still a car. There is no reason to run slower than a dog. The sound of gunshots kept ringing, and the explosion of the big guns was so shocking, and several villagers would die under each shot. Zhu Chunlu was also in great pain when he saw his fellow countrymen fall down one by one. The cousin Zhu Yangzi who pulled him up next to him shouted anxiously, "Chunlu, think of a way." The others also looked at Zhu Chunlu, their eyes full of pleading and anticipation. The only ones who can deal with strangers are strangers. Zhu Chunlu's brain felt like it was going to crack, and the heavy psychological pressure almost made him collapse. But in this despair, a flash of inspiration suddenly appeared in his mind. Facing the road ahead of Zhang Yi, he opened his right hand, and a light blue light began to light up in his eyes. Zhu Chunlu slowly exerted force with his right hand. Crack. There was a crisp sound on the ice, and very abruptly, a long crack appeared on a large piece of ice. Zhu Chunlu continued to exert force. The crack began to expand, and the scope of the shattered ice surface also expanded. Zhang Yi was chasing. The snowmobile leaned forward suddenly, and the gun in his hand was crooked. Zhang Yi quickly grabbed the car window, and the automatic driving system braked quickly, because the snowmobile lost its balance. The car body tilted to one side, and Zhang Yi had to choose to temporarily stop the pursuit. He jumped out of the car window, looked ahead, and saw a huge crack on the ice surface, which was more than 10 meters long from left to right. As for the area where the wheel fell into, the cracked area was larger, and half of the tire was not inserted into it. This scene made Zhang Yi's eyes darken. The ice under his feet was at least 5 or 6 meters thick, so Zhu Chunlei couldn't completely crack the ice and let him fall into the river. But just as Zhang Yi's ability can be continuously developed, the abilities Zhu Chunlei demonstrated this time may not become stronger in the future. It is unimaginable how powerful a foreigner who can control ice and snow will become in this glacial doomsday. Long distance attack, large area attack range, combined with the environment of the end of the Ice Age, the potential is very huge. However, fortunately, Zhang Yi's ability has absolute defensibility, which can restrain Zhu Chunlei's ice and snow long-range attack. Zhang Yi looked into the distance, and the people in Zudong village had already fled away when his car broke down. Zhang Yi raised the sniper rifle in his hand to aim, and those people crossed the ice and entered the messy bushes behind. Boom. Boom. Zhang Yi fired 2 more shots, randomly killing 2 villagers from Zudong village. Zhang Yi didn't stop until their figures disappeared completely. It looks like we won't be able to fight them on the ice in the future. Looking at the long cracks under his feet, Zhang Yi said cautiously, if it wasn't for the fact that his abilities weren't strong enough, or the ice layer wasn't thick enough, I would have fallen into the icy water with my car and me. Zhang Yi exhaled a puff of white smoke, took off the tactical eyepiece on his head, then used the different space to adjust the position of the snowmobile, and drove back to Young Manor. The south road is already in a mess, and 3/4 of the traps have been destroyed, leaving only about 50 meters in front of the villa undamaged. But there is nothing to feel bad about, because enough intruders have been killed. Zhang Yi is going to find time to clean up the place again, and then rearrange the traps. After returning home, Yang Mi lay weakly on the sofa, her face turned pale. The bloody scene tonight made her spit out all the meals of the day. Zhao Kenna was very dissatisfied with this cousin on the surface, but seeing her weak appearance, he still helped her massage her head to make her relax. Seeing Zhang Yi coming back, Zhao Kenna asked, how is it? Did you catch the alien who attacked us last time? Yang Mi also raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Zhang Yi weakly. Zhang Yi replied lightly, no. That guy is very wretched, and he has never dared to confront me head on. His ability to escape is too disgusting, and it is not easy to kill. The main reason is that Zhang Yi is too cautious and does not want to enter the opponent's home court. Otherwise, if it was a life and death fight, he would have almost no chance of losing to Zhu Chunlei. Yang Mi lowered her eyes and suddenly asked in a weak voice, Zhang Yi, after killing so many people, aren't you afraid that you will be liquidated in the future? Killing people is against the law. Her tone was soft without much strength. Zhang Yi felt her wavering from her tone. Before, Yang Mi had always firmly believed that the snowstorm would not last long, and there was no end of the world at all. Sooner or later, the world will return to the way it used to be, and she will still be that glorious star. But today, seeing hundreds of people die in horrific horror before her eyes has shaken her faith. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, walked in front of her with a smile, and stretched out his hands to pinch her palm-sized face. Yang Mi's face feels very good, tender, and tender. He didn't explain, just asked back, what do you think? Yang Mi lowered her eyes and did not speak. Perhaps she herself knew that waiting for the return of civilized society was an unfulfilled dream. But sometimes people are unwilling to face reality. Zhang Yi stood up and rubbed his stomach. After playing for a long time, he was also a little hungry. I'm a little hungry. Cook me something to eat. Zhao Ke left Yang Mi without hesitation. Okay, what do you want to eat? Brain flour, hairy blood, fried duck gizzard with garlic, and jiaohu and large intestine. Yang Mi's face turned even paler when she heard the names of these dishes. Vomit. Zhang Yi looked down at her with a smile. Why is your body a little weak? Why don't you come and eat some and make up for it? Yang Mi blushed angrily. Are you a devil? Seeing her angry look, Zhang Yi was very happy. He leaned into Yang Mi's ear. How about I give you a supplement at night and let you eat something highly nutritious? Yang Mi's face turned even redder, but this time she did not refuse. Chapter 196 Hero or Bear? Zujia Town. Zudong Village. The villagers fled back in a panic. Many people had been frightened by the tragedy. Their eyes were blank, and they fell into the snow. The screams of the wounded came one after another, and some people were mourning for their dead relatives. The women who stayed at home were terrified when they saw this scene. They originally thought that they could welcome the returning heroes, as well as a large amount of supplies as spoils of war. But I didn't expect that how majestic the team was when they went there, and how embarrassed they were when they came back. And the number of people has been reduced by nearly half. Where is my son? Where is my son? Zhang Yi. Wait a minute, where is my husband? Has something happened to him? The women searched for their fathers, husbands, and sons in panic. Both survivors and survivors are devastated. Standing on the ice and snow square, Zhu Chunlei felt extremely uneasy watching the miserable conditions of the villagers. Obviously I have warned you. Zhu Chunlei sighed and hurried back to his home. He didn't want to face these grieving villagers. But not long after, someone broke into his home. Zhu Chunlei, what are you doing hiding here? His cousin Zhu Yangzi grabbed his arm and said anxiously, come with me, third grandpa is dying. He wants to see you. When he heard that the third grandpa Zhu Dongsheng was dying, Zhu Chunlei was startled and hurried to Zhu Dongsheng's house. When he arrived panting and dragging his fat body, Zhu Dongsheng's house was already crowded with people. When people saw Zhu Chunlei, their eyes were full of complexities. This look made Zhu Chunlei feel a chill down his back. Because from the eyes of these villagers, Zhu Chunlei did not see any expression of gratitude, but only complaints, even disgust. Pooh. An uncle of the same clan spat on the ground. A woman wiped her tears and said through gritted teeth, Chunlei, I heard that you were the only one who didn't follow our family this time. Why didn't you go? In our Zhu family, you are lucky and have extraordinary abilities. You don't want to take the lead when encountering things, but stay at home as a turtle. Do you know how many people in our Zhu family died because of you? Zhu Chunlei was in a cold sweat. This aunt had always been strong, and he was also very scared. And I didn't let them go. I persuaded them. Zhu Chunlei said in a low voice. Others didn't hear it at all, or didn't care. So many people died in the family, and almost every family had men killed in battle, so naturally there was a lot of resentment. A group of people chattered, pointing at Zhu Chunlei and accusing him. If you were here at the time, you could use your ability to manipulate ice and snow, to mess with it casually, so that everyone wouldn't be killed by bombs. What the hell is going on in your mind? Zhu Chunlei was furious in his heart, and he really wanted to yell loudly, I didn't let you go. None of my business. But I'm used to staying at home on weekdays. No matter how beautiful I think in my heart, I really can't be presumptuous in front of the elders of the family. At this time, a gentle old man with glasses and parted hair came out. Okay. As soon as the old man opened his mouth, the other clansmen restrained their words, but their eyes were still staring fiercely at Zhu's cleft lip. The old man glanced at Zhu Chunlei and said meaningfully, go in, the third brother is calling you. This is Zhu Dongtang, the eldest son of the Zhu family, Zhu Dongsheng's younger brother, who is considered a successful and prestigious figure in the Zhu family. Zhu Chunlei lowered his head and walked past the crowd to the room. The house was built by him out of ice and snow. After the heavy snow came, the surrounding people were all buried by the heavy snow, and he used his ability to help each family build a house. Ice and snow have good windproof and heat preservation functions, and it actually feels pretty good to live in. The only downside is that the brazier or candles in the house will melt after a long time and need to be repaired frequently. On the bed in the igloo lay the dying Zhu Dongsheng. He was already very old. After this scare, he lost his mind directly, and he was suddenly frightened out of the question. Seeing Zhu Chunlei approaching, Zhu Dongsheng had a look of guilt on his face. Chunlei, you're here. Zhu Chunlei hurried to the bed. Third grandpa. Zhu Dongsheng said weakly, it's all my fault for not listening to you. Otherwise, our Zhu family members wouldn't have died so many. Zhu Chunlei had a sore nose. He didn't know how wronged he was to be accused by the villagers like that. Fortunately, the village chief understood him. Zhu Dongsheng continued, hey, I'm also confused. I thought that after the snow disaster, we have never lost a battle with the surrounding villages, so there is no one to be our opponent. But now I understand that the reason why our village is so powerful is because of you. It's just a group of villagers who are farming and fishing. Why are you pretending? In the end, you put your own life in it. When a person is about to die, his words are also good. Zhu Dongsheng repented at this time, but it was too late. He looked at the simple and honest little fat man beside the bed, took his hand and said, I have already told them about those people in the family. If you want to complain, blame me, the old man. You can't blame this matter. How can we ordinary people fight against those aliens with great abilities? They are all dead family members now, and they may say something bad to you. I hope you don't blame them. After all, we are all of the same clan, and we have to help each other to survive at this time. Zhu Chunlei was also a little moved when he heard this. He nodded and said, Third Grandpa, I know. I won't take it to heart. Zhu Chunlei smiled dryly, I'm about to die. Before I left, I was just worried about the Zhu family, fearing that our family would be cut off. So Chunlei, before leaving, Third Grandfather, I beg you to do one thing. I hope you can protect the Zhu family well. Zhu Chunlei looked surprised and quickly squeezed Zhu Dongsheng's hand. Third Grandpa, what are you talking about? Your body is fine. The smile on the corner of Zhu Dongsheng's mouth was a bit far-fetched. When a person reaches a certain age, he knows his body very well. They can even predict their own death. Chunlei, Grandpa is gone. From now on, the Zhu family will be entrusted to you. After Zhu Dongsheng said this, he waved to Zhu Chunlei. Okay, you go out. I'm tired and want to rest for a while. After speaking, Zhu Dongsheng slowly closed his eyes. Zhu Chunlei felt bad and called out Third Grandpa several times. Don't shout, don't shout. I'm tired, let me sleep for a while. Zhu Dongsheng left these words as if raving, then tilted his head and died suddenly. Zhu Chunlei hurriedly called the people outside the house. Everyone in the Zhu family rushed in, and when they saw Zhu Dongsheng who had closed his eyes, they immediately burst into tears. After Zhu Chunlei found out that no one cared about him, he walked out in despair. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Zhu Chunlei-039 S Enlightenment. Zhu Chunlei was a little embarrassed today. There was a strange feeling in his heart. He didn't know what kind of thought it was. In short, he just felt depressed. Is it his fault that caused today's result? If yes, but he clearly reminded Zhu Dongsheng many times, and in the end it was he who saved the remaining people. Otherwise, with the mysterious and powerful Zhang Yi style of doing things, none of the people in Zhujia village will survive. But if he said no, if he had gone with everyone at that time, the casualties would definitely not be as great as they are now. With such a strange mood, Zhu Chunlei walked back step by step slowly. The Third Grandfather entrusted me to protect the Zhu family before he died. What can I do? If that god of death really comes over, I'm no match for him, and I'm afraid I'll have to run away. I thought that I should become a genius of long AO after awakening my abilities, but why do I come to me for so many troublesome things? I just want to be a flat salted fish. Zhu Chunlei couldn't figure it out. But when he returned to the door of the house dejectedly, he saw a girl waiting at the door. The girl was 18 or 19 years old, wearing a long white down jacket with brown fluff on the edge of the hat. Under the hat, a small face the size of a palm was exposed. When she saw Zhu Chunlei, she walked over quickly. Are you brother Chunlei? Zhu Chunlei thumped in his heart. As a two-stinging ape, he had natural obstacles in how to communicate with three-dimensional women. Just hearing the girl's sweet voice, his mind didn't know what to do. Ah, I'm brother Chunlei. You, who are you? Although they all belong to the same village, there are many people who are not familiar with them. The girl smiled sweetly. My name is Zulili. Today, thank you for saving my father. Zulili's eyes were filled with joy and gratitude. My father said that, if you hadn't shot them, they would have all died there. A gleam of light appeared in Zhu Chunlei's confused eyes. He is not a sinner, he is a hero. He should be a hero. Haha, this is what I should do. Zulili said with a smile. My father is not convenient to come here now. Let me thank you for him. As she said that, she lowered her head and said embarrassedly, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to bring you at home. I can only come here empty-handed. Zhu Chunlei waved his hands again and again. No, they are all from the same village, so you don't need to be polite. If you need anything in the future, just come and find me. Zhu Lili chatted with him for a few words, then waved her hand, turned her head, and disappeared into the snow. Looking at Zhu Lili's back, Zhu Chunlei's heartbeat accelerated crazily. Although he didn't see the girl's face clearly, he felt that he had fallen in love with her deeply. Zhu Lili? I don't know you well. Although they are all from the Zhu family, they should be out of Wufu, right? The otaku who claimed he would never fall in love with a three-dimensional woman violated his beliefs without hesitation. He raised his head and clenched his fists firmly. I will guard this home from now on. I must give her and the child a safe environment. Zhu Chunlei returned home, thinking about how to deal with the next crisis. The two fights made him deeply aware of Zhang Yi's fearfulness. In particular, when Zhang Yi killed someone, he had a pure killing intent without the slightest hesitation. The traps and weapons used are all for the most effective purpose of killing more people. Therefore, Zhu Chunlei instinctively imagined Zhang Yi as a bloodthirsty monster in his heart. He must be angry this time. Maybe he will attack Zudong village in the future and kill everyone in the village. I promised the third grandpa to protect the village, and now that I have love, I can't just watch him ruin my happiness. But what to do? Zhu Chunlei didn't dare to confront Zhang Yi head on. Until now, he has never personally killed a single person. At most he used ice and snow to attack the neighboring villages when they were fighting. After thinking about it, he thought there was only one solution to this matter. That is 2 words. Peace talks. When Zhu Chunlei thought of this idea, he was extremely excited. I'm such a genius. I can think of such a dangerous idea. But in order to protect the entire Zhu family, and he and Zhu Lili, I'm going to fight it out. He quickly sat down in front of the computer, turned on the computer, and began to look for Zhang Yi's contact information. Lily must like me, right? Yes, it must be like this. I saved her father's life. According to the development in the TV series, she must have secretly promised me. Then next, let her love me more. This fat man is crazy. In fact, he just came here to thank him and to build a good relationship with him. A foreigner, by the way. But it's a dead house, and there is no chance to get in touch with real women on weekdays. Even if you encounter it, you will be too nervous to speak. Therefore, as long as the girl of the family shows a little bit of affection, he will think of the names of the 2 grandchildren. To put it simply, he just flattened A for a while, and he used DF2 to connect with his big move. The next morning, Zhang Yi came out and carefully cleaned up the destroyed traps around him. The most powerful grenade traps and detonation mines had been triggered, but bear traps and pegboards were thrown everywhere. In addition, a large number of corpses were left on the ground, some whole and some broken. There are many flesh and blood hanging on the top plate, which looks a little disgusting. Based on the principle of not wasting, Zhang Yi buried them all in the snow, then rearranged the grenade traps. That is, the most powerful explosive landmine is gone, and the remaining one is on the road to the west. There is no such thing as a powerful weapon left from the original barracks, and it is likely to be in the hands of some armed troops in some special shelters in Xianhe City at this time. After several hours of cleaning, Zhang Yi reorganized the traps on the road. There is a high probability that the people in Zudong village will not have the guts to approach them again. These traps are kept, waiting for the second batch of enemies that may come. It's ridiculous to say that those people in Zudong village didn't even get close to the villa. Their threat to Zhang Yi is almost equal to 0, if the ice and snow supernatural power is not considered. Thinking of the ice and snow superpower, Zhang Yi still admired it a little. The other party is very similar to him in some ways, that is, fear of death. From the beginning to the end, the other party kept a long enough distance from him. And after realizing that he was not an opponent, he fled decisively to a safe area without hesitation. Moreover, the power of ice and snow that he possesses is too easy to use. Both offensive and defensive, it can also change the terrain, causing a wide range of ice and snow effects. MD is simply the ice method in online games. We still have to find a chance to kill him in the future. This kind of person will be a big trouble if he grows up in the future. Since you can't be friends, then treat them as enemies and kill them in advance. Chapter 198 Negotiations. After setting up the trap, Zhang Yi turned around and returned to the shelter. Those people in Zudong village will not be his threat, but the ice and snow power user is. However, after seeing the opponent's potential, he will not take the initiative to choose to fight across the river. It is best to wait for an opportunity and secretly snipe and kill the other party when they are not prepared. After all, his current supernatural ability is equipped with a sniper rifle, which can reach a terrifying range of 1500 meters. Zhang Yi returned to the living room and sat on the sofa. Zhao Ke and Yang Mi came over attentively, rubbing his shoulders and legs. After finishing, Yang Mi's attitude towards him became more and more intimate. That was not a superficial perfunctory, but a desire to get closer from the bottom of my heart. After realizing the cruelty of reality and her own powerlessness, Yang Mi wisely chose to cling to the man in front of her. This kind of life is very enjoyable for Zhang Yi. The two women wore the clothes Zhang Yi had prepared for them at home. Without exception, Yang Mi wears a low-cut suspended dress with Balenciaga black silk. Her proud figure, only this kind of clothing, can perfectly highlight all the advantages. But Zhang Yi didn't let her wear shoes at home. She had to walk around with those little black silk feet. Some women have beautiful little feet, and it's a pleasure just to watch them stomp on the ground. What's more, Yang Mi has received special physical training. Even a leg raising movement will look extraordinarily elegant and charming. And Zhao Ke is tall, with a 9-headed body comparable to an international supermodel, especially the temperament of a young lady who comes from a family of scholars, which is something ordinary women can't learn. Therefore, there are more places for her to develop. Zhang Yi has been constantly challenging her bottom line, making the clothes she wears more sexy. But his favorite is the nude apron. That kind of appearance, that seems to be worn, but not actually worn, is really unstoppable. Compared with Yang Mi, Zhao Ke is more in line with his image of a good wife and mother. If this kind of life can be maintained forever, Zhang Yi will be a winner in life. At this moment, Zhang Yi's cell phone rang suddenly as the phone. He frowned slightly and took out his cell phone from his pocket. The caller was from an unknown number. He couldn't help but think of Lu Fengde a few days ago, when Lu Fengde also obtained his personal information through the internet. After all, Zhang Yi is not a special person. His personal information is sold everywhere on the internet by major information platforms, and it is not difficult to obtain. The phone kept ringing, and Zhang Yi's eyes were a little playful. It was the first time, but this time he was much calmer. Anyway, his biggest secret has been exposed, so what else can scare him? Instead, Zhao Ke and Yang Mi looked at him nervously. Women at this time hope to rely on men to give them a sense of security. Zhang Yi casually clicked on the phone. Hey. On the other end of the phone, an excited voice came. Zhang Yi. Hello, I'm Zhu Chunlei. Thank you for answering my call. Can you give me some time? I have something to talk to you about. Zhu Chunlei. Surnamed Zhu? You are from Zujia town. A gleam flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. The expressions of Zhao Ke and Yang Mi also changed slightly. Just yesterday, their shelter was attacked by villagers from Zujia town. So they don't have any good feelings for the people in this place. Zhu Chunlei said, to be precise, I'm from Zudong village, Zujia town. But that is not important. I called you this time, because I hope to have a good talk with you. Let's not have any more conflicts in the future. How about reconciliation? After Zhang Yi heard this, he couldn't help but sneered. Ha ha ha. Reconciliation? What are you kidding me about? He lowered his voice and said coldly, from the beginning to now, you have been picking trouble with me. Why? Now that you can't fight, you want to seek peace. There is no such reason in this world, right? Zhu Chunlei on the other end of the phone suddenly became nervous. He sat on the chair and began to break out in cold sweat. In fact, now, he is very scared in his heart, and he regards Zhang Yi as a powerful killer. No, what I mean is that I hope to get your understanding. All this is done wrong by our village. But insofar as we didn't do you any harm, and our own casualties were heavy, will you forgive us? In order to apologize, you can put forward any conditions. Fatty Zhu's nervous voice trembled a little. Zhang Yi also heard this. He couldn't help but feel strange in his heart. If the people in Zudong village really intend to reconcile with themselves, they will definitely send a reliable person over. But listening to the voice of the person opposite, it is obvious that he is not an experienced person. He touched his chin and asked, "Can I ask you, can you talk to me on behalf of Zudongkan?" Zhu Chunlei swallowed his saliva and nodded firmly. "Can? Why? Who are you?" "Actually, I'm the alien who has fought against you twice." Zhu Chunlei revealed his identity. Only in this way can he get Zhang Yi's attention. Sure enough, after Zhang Yi knew that the young man with a stuttering voice on the opposite side was a stranger of the ice and snow department in Zudong village, his gaze became much more serious. "Oh, it's you," Zhu Chunlei said. "Yes, that's right. It's me, Zhang Yi. Do you think I'm qualified to negotiate with you?" "If it is him, he is indeed qualified to negotiate." Zhu Chunlei is the only person Zhang Yi fears in Zudong village. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. "Oh. You mean, as long as I agree to a settlement, you Zudong village can meet any of my demands?" Zhu Chunlei chuckled. "As long as the conditions don't embarrass us, I can agree to you." The reason why Zhu Chunlei dared to say that was because there was really nothing in Zudong village that Zhang Yi should worry about. After seeing Zhang Yi's abilities, he can almost conclude that Zhang Yi must have a large amount of supplies in the Walmart warehouse. Therefore, in terms of food, Zhang Yi will not lack. As for other living conditions, what in that huge luxury shelter is not better than Zudongkan's? Don't look at this fat man as a homeboy, but he is not stupid. Zhang Yi also felt that the fat man was not that stupid. He smiled. There was really nothing in Zudongkan that was worthy of his concern. How could the food stored by those farmers and the fish caught by them be as good as those in other dimensions? However, this does not mean that Zhang Yi has nothing to worry about. "That's good. What I want is you, Zhu Chunlei," Zhang Yi said with a smile. What can make him never forget is naturally Zhu Chunlei's ice and snow ability with unlimited potential. If you can win over this stranger to become your little brother, it will be of great use in the future. Chapter 199 Knee Pillow. Zhu Chunlei was startled when he heard Zhang Yi's words. He shouted in horror, "You don't want to look like this." I'm a straight man." Zhang Yi immediately rolled his eyes. Even Zhao Ke and Yang Mi couldn't help laughing. "Idiot. What are you thinking about? I mean, I'm very interested in your powers. Well, if you really want to reconcile, come here in person. Let me see if you are qualified to reconcile with me." Having said that, Zhang Yi emphasized his tone. "Otherwise, I won't tolerate the harassment of me again and again. Your ability has no effect on me. Once I reach the other side of the river, it will be no difficulty to destroy your entire village." Zhang Yi deliberately frightened Zhu Chunlei like this. Sure enough, he successfully scared Zhu Chunlei. "Do not want." Zhu Chunlei was so frightened that he stood up from his chair and paced back and forth in the room, his body also trembling. Facing Zhang Yi, he was really terrified. "Even if we destroy our Zudong village, it won't do you any good. Also, don't think we are unprepared," Zhu Chunlei said, pretending to be calm. Zhang Yi scoffed. "Ready? I'd like to see what you guys used to defend against me. Don't forget, I have a sniper rifle. As long as I want to, I can kill all the villagers in your Zudong village one by one without getting close. Unless from now on, you don't go out at all." Zhu Chunlei was so nervous. He finally did something heroic, hoping to reach a settlement with Zhang Yi by his own ability, fulfill his promise to Zhu Dongsheng, and make Zhu Lili admire him by the way. But if something goes wrong and Zhang Yi is angered, then he will become Zhu Dongkan's sinner. "Wait a minute. Zhang Yi, don't get excited. Let's talk again, shall we? Look, it's also good for you to keep us in Zudong village. Zudong village and Young Manor are closely related. If there are foreign enemies in the future, we can still help each other." Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, "Enemy? Aren't you my biggest enemy now? Take away everything from me if you can win, and ask for peace if you can't win and you don't want to pay the price. You have taken advantage of all the advantages in this world. Do you think it's possible? In short, let me just say, in my eyes, only you, Zhu Chunlei, are qualified to talk to me. To come or not to come is up to you. But whether to fight across the river or not depends on my mood. Through the dialogue, Zhang Yi has some grasp of Zhu Chunlui's temperament. Timid, cowardly. He is not a very shrewd and strong person. So Zhang Yi directly forced him to make a choice. Okay, give me your answer now. Come or not? If you don't come, I will kill you soon. Zhu Chunlui has completely lost his rhythm. In his heart, the shadow left by Zhang Yi magnified infinitely. He thought of the night when Zhang Yi killed him like a dog last night. I'm going, can't I go? Zhu Chunlui blurted out, for fear that he would lose this last chance. Seeing that the other party took the bait, Zhang Yi smiled and said, okay, then come over at 2:30 in the afternoon. The temperature will be slightly warmer at that time. Zhang Yi is quite considerate. After speaking, without giving Zhu Chunlui a chance to repent, he hung up the phone directly. On the other end of the phone, Zhu Chunlui was dumbfounded, and he didn't expect to agree to the matter in a moment of excitement. In fact, he regretted it as soon as he said it. Where is it so easy to be a hero? Before he met Zhang Yi, he was able to survive because he was wretched enough to hide from a distance and use long-range skills to attack and defend. If he got closer, he would have already thought of 100 ways to die in his mind. Thump. Zhu Chunlui knelt down on the ground with his fat legs weak, with a gloomy expression on his face. It's over, I'm dead this time. The other side. Zhang Yi put the phone on the table and began to think about how to deal with the meeting in the afternoon. He already has a relatively comprehensive understanding of Zhu Chunlui's Ice and Snow ability. Control Ice and Snow for attack and defense, as well as a wide range of field capabilities. But these physical attacks will be swallowed by his dimensional gate. Therefore, Zhu Chunlui will not pose a threat to him. As long as Zhu Chunlui didn't take precautions in advance, he could kill him from 1500 meters away. Not to mention that after getting close, Zhang Yi can completely crush him with the advantage of equipment. However, should we kill him? Zhang Yi was thinking about this question. An alien with unlimited potential may become a huge threat, but if he becomes a helper, he must also be very powerful. Zhu Chunlui's ability made Zhang Yi even feel excited. If the ability is also divided into levels, Zhu Chunlui's ability is definitely higher than Uncle Yu's physical enhancement, and it is probably second only to Zhang Yi's other dimensional space. Let's test this guy first, then decide whether to kill or not. He didn't have much hatred for those people in Zudang village, mainly because he killed more than 100 people, and his anger disappeared. A group of muggles died and absurdly came to attack his sanctuary, and they couldn't even get through the simplest traps on the outside. How can human beings be angry with a group of ants who are overwhelmed? It was mainly this Zhu Chunlui who aroused Zhang Yi's interest. After lunch, Zhang Yi took a nap. Yang Mi wanted to come over to serve her bed, but was rejected by Zhang Yi. I still have work to do in the afternoon, I'll deal with you later. Looking at Yang Mi in suspender pajamas, Zhang Yi justly refused her request to sleep together, and only agreed to let her sit on the bed as an e-pillow for him. Yang Mi obeyed obediently, sat on the huge bed with her knees bent, lifted her lace nightgown skirt, revealing her 2 white and round thighs. Zhang Yi rested his head on her lap. The plump and elastic touch was really intoxicating. Today's light is a bit plentiful, making it difficult to fall asleep. Zhang Yi turned his head to face Yang Mi's side and covered his head with her skirt by the way. The warm breath is naturally directed somewhere. Yang Mi's face quickly heated up and turned red, and her body couldn't help trembling slightly. She bit her lip, trying her best to endure the restlessness. Because this is the master's request, she must meet it. Call me up at 2 o'clock. Zhang Yi's voice came from inside her skirt, and as he spoke, Yang Mi's body trembled even more. She had to cover her mouth and nodded repeatedly. Oh. I don't know if Zhang Yi slept peacefully or not this time, but it was indeed a severe test for Yang Mi. But she couldn't refuse, because the master's order is absolute. Chapter 200 The Filial Son, the Virtuous Grandson, Wang Fatty. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Zhang Yi put on all the equipment, and then came to the window, and waited for Zhu Chunlui to come to negotiate. From this distance, as long as he appeared on the river, he would be spotted. Moreover, Zhang Yi's sniper rifle can cover all ranges within a radius of 1500 meters within the middle section of the river. As long as Zhu Chunlui entered this range, his life and death would no longer be in his hands. Zhang Yi took off the Rolex on his wrist and put it on the table to check the time. If Zhu Chunli can come this time, the result is undoubtedly the best, and he will fully grasp the initiative. Even if the negotiation fails, he can kill Zhu Chunli in an instant. But if the negotiation fails, Zhang Yi shrugged. In fact, he would not rush into Zudong village to slaughter. At most, he would often patrol the riverside with a big sniper on his shoulders, and as soon as he found people from Zudong village fishing by the river, he would snipe them and kill them. The fish in the river is an important source of food, and it is impossible for them to give up. After Zhang Yi waited for a while, a shadow slowly appeared from behind the messy snow drifts and bushes on the other side of the river. Zhang Yi raised his sniper and looked over with a scope. He clearly saw that it was a bloated fat man wearing a black down jacket. His legs were like 2 cubes, and he was wearing a ridiculous wool cap with fleece on his head. It's him. Zhang Yi recognized this figure. Although I saw it through the tactical eyepiece last night, the ice and snow power user is indeed of this size. The center of the sight of the sniper rifle had locked onto Fatty's head. As long as he enters Zhang Yi's shooting range, Zhang Yi can take his life immediately. At this moment, Zhu Chunli wanted to walk onto the ice, but after stepping on it with one foot, he fell down and squatted because of the slippery bottom of his foot. Puff! Zhang Yi couldn't help but burst out laughing. The snimmer. This is the alien of the ice and snow department he was wary of, that master with unlimited potential. Ahem. Wait a minute. People should not be judged by their appearance. Zhang Yi restrained his smile and continued to look over. But what happened next made him unable to hold back anymore. After Zhu Chunli fell down, he got up in a panic, but because of his nervousness, he didn't wait to stand still and fell like a shit. Zhang Yi covered his mouth, and it took a lot of effort not to let himself laugh out loud. Unexpectedly, this Zhu Chunli turned out to be a pure joke. Zhu Chunli looked around nervously, for fear of being discovered in his embarrassment. After confirming that no one found out, he breathed a sigh of relief, and then climbed up carefully. They don't have a dog, so they can only walk along the ice. Zhang Yi restrained the smile on his face. Although the other party was a funny one, he was also a powerful stranger. He will not underestimate any opponent. Zhang Yi has been observing the surrounding movements on the second floor to prevent this from being an ambush by the other party. But until more than 10 minutes later, when Zhu Chunli climbed up to the opposite bank with difficulty, Zhang Yi didn't see anyone else. Only then did he feel relieved. It seems that these guys are really scared by me. It's no wonder. After all, there are too many people slaughtered by him, and the villagers in Zudong village are just ordinary people. They have the courage to gather crowds to commit murder and bully the weak point, but when they encounter a powerful and ruthless person, they wilt. Zhang Yi put away the sniper rifle in his hand, ready to meet this interesting stranger. Zhu Chunli climbed along the embankment to the road, and the thick snow had been compacted, like a big piece of thick ice. The scattered snowflakes falling from the sky brought some friction to prevent him from slipping again when he walked. Zhu Chunli swallowed his saliva with difficulty and took a long breath on the side of the road with his hands on his knees. He was gasping for breath just now. His lungs were almost frozen, and his trachea seemed to have been stabbed once with a small knife. After resting, he took out iPhone 42 from his pocket and called Zhang Yi. Hey, I've reached the shore. How can I go to find you? There are traps near your house. I dare not go there. It's okay. I'm here too. A cold voice sounded from the front. Zhu Chunli raised his head and met Zhang Yi's cold and scrutinizing black eyes. One of the two is armed to the teeth, the other is dressed like a bull, the other is condescending, and the other is panting and embarrassed. Zhang Yi always felt that this scene was a bit funny. The beating of the supernatural beings in his imagination should not be like this. But after Zhu Chunli saw Zhang Yi, his legs were already weak, and he felt infinite awe and reverie towards him in his heart. You are Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi nodded. You are Zhu Chunli. Yes, I am. Zhu Chunli stood up straight, summoned up his courage, and said to Zhang Yi, I'm here to negotiate peace with you. Let's stop fighting. It will be of no benefit to anyone. This battle is meaningless at all. The corner of Zhang Yi's mouth raised a sneer. Whether it is meaningful or not is not up to you. Are you ashamed to be the active offensive party? Zhu Chunli scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. I understand that the people in Zudong village were at fault first, So what are you going to do to reconcile with us? Zhu Chunlai's performance made Zhang Yi feel a little helpless. He had made all the preparations, including the other party's ambush or a sudden attack, and the worst was a tit-for-tat argument with him. But the fat man who appeared in front of him looked silly and stupid, and he was completely a nerd who was not good at socializing. This gave Zhang Yi a feeling of punching cotton. However, Zhang Yi will not show this mentality. He crossed his arms, raised his sword eyebrows, and asked coldly, "I want to know, what can you do to ask for my forgiveness?" Zhu Chunlai blinked, and then immediately replied, "Except for the lives of the villagers, as long as you bring up other aspects, we will try our best to satisfy you." The situation of these two people at this time is a bit strange. Zhang Yi has everything, but what about Zhu Duncan? Then nothing can be given. But Zhang Yi always wants to stand up. He asked coldly, "Who asked you to attack me?" "That person must die. This matter can only be discussed." Unexpectedly, after he finished speaking like this, Zhu Chunlai said excitedly, "It's simple. The matter was the third grandfather's idea, and he was scared to death by you as soon as he went back. You should calm down now, right?" Zhu Chunlai's face was filled with a sincere smile, which made Zhang Yi's eyelids twitch. "It can be seen that you are very happy. You are really a grandson." Zhu Chunlai scratched his chubby face. "The dead are gone. The survivors must look forward, right? And it was our fault in the first place. So we can't blame you." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.